Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to ACSS Live. Let me go ahead and get everything pulled up on my screen here. We've got to find overlays. Let's see, comments and reactions. Where are they at? There we go. All right, I can see everybody. Oh, where did it go? Oh, here it is right here. All right. Running like a well-oiled machine, as you can see. All right, we got Brendan in the house. John McCabe, Kareem, Justin is here. Anthony, Admiral Lumpbelly. Wow, that's a new one. Seeing as there's no cricket today, better do some websiting. We got David Walls in the house. The Hunzi is here. Kareem. Throw up those likes, everybody. You got to throw up a like on the stream. You got to drop a comment and say hi. These are just, standard customary things. Suzanne's here. Jeff's here. We got a lot of people. Looking good, looking good. So what are we doing today? We are doing a special event. We do this every single month for all ACSS customers and all ACSS prospects, right? Maybe you're not even an ACSS user yet. You just wanted to tune in and see what everything is all about. But mainly, this is for customers who, have questions or sticking points or challenges or whatever. There is a little bit of a learning curve to automatic CSS. It's not like you just, hey, install it and it just is like magic, right? You got to know some things. And so we want to get you going as smoothly as possible. We want to take that learning curve and flatten it as much as we possibly can. We want to make sure that you're having a really good experience with automatic CSS, that you understand everything that it's doing and that it can do for you if you use it correctly. So it's kind of an open forum. Now, to start things off, I think what we're going to do is take a look at the dashboard and just run through it. What I find talking to ACSS users, watching ACSS users, they do a lot of the obvious stuff, but there's a ton of stuff that ACSS can do for you that they don't even realize, or that it is doing for you that they don't even realize. It's good to do a little bit of an overview from time to time. And then I just want to take as many questions as I possibly can. So anything that you guys are struggling with, whether you're a beginner, right? And I do want to just say this outright at the beginning of every stream, every single month, because sometimes I feel like people are like, oh, I feel like I'm too much of a beginner to ask questions. Like everybody else maybe has been using ACSS for a few months now, or a few years now, or they've been building sites, maybe they've done dozens of sites with automatic CSS, and they have more important questions than me, or something like this. And maybe my questions are answered in the documentation, and I should just try to read and go through the documentation. Or maybe I should just watch all the existing videos on the ACSS channel and try to figure it out. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what level you are at or what level you feel your question is at. This is your opportunity to get your question answered. So there isn't a question that is too basic or too beginner for this stream. And there isn't really a question that's too advanced for this stream. Everybody's here. Everybody can ask questions, okay? It doesn't matter. You're here to get help. You can get help, okay? All right. I just ask that when you do ask a question, put question in all caps and then ask your question. That way it doesn't get lost in the chat. As you can see, the chat is going, fairly well with a bunch of hellos, and there's going to be some side banter in the chats and things like that. So it makes it easy for me to find your question if I can just see that word question in all caps as I'm scrolling up and down. Unfortunately, the chat, when I do like Zoom webinars and stuff like that, it puts Q&A in a separate section from chat. There's like chat over here, Q&A over here, and it makes it really easy. YouTube ain't like that. So YouTube puts everything all together in this chat that just flows too fast, honestly. So it makes it a little bit more difficult. If you asked your question a while ago and you feel like I haven't seen it, I mean, you can always ask it again, right? Okay. And I'm not in Florida right now. I am not in Florida. But I do. I'm come on. You got to look a little fresh sometimes. Can't always be in the t-shirt. All right, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to do our little dashboard overview here. So what I'm going to do, if we can manage our screens properly today, let's go ahead and get our screen sharing going. and let's hop into the dashboard. Okay. We are going to be taking a look at, this is version 2.5.2. We do have 2.6, which is in the works, and there is a lot of good stuff coming in 2.6. And so this dashboard will change, but we do this every single month. So for, what are we in now? We're going to be in August. So in August, when 2.6, everybody's using 2.6, we'll do another ACSS Live, and then we can look at the 2.6 dashboard. But this is going to be good for now, because this is if you're using ACSS right now, this is likely what you're going to see. So I'm going to start in the viewport tab right here, just so that we're all on the same page. We all understand exactly what is available to us in the dashboard, kind of what everything does. The viewport tab is where you set your website's content width. Now, I want to explain content width to everybody because this is very important. You see from the left edge of your content here to the right edge of your content. That is your website's content width. This is very important for you to set on any website, regardless of whether you're using Automatic CSS or not using Automatic CSS. This is not an Automatic CSS thing. This is a web design thing. You need to know what your website's content width is. Sometimes you'll see content that goes to the edge of the screen. That's okay. That breaks out of the website's content width, okay? But you're still wanting to establish a content width of the website so that all of your content is in perfect alignment left to right. You see, that creates uniformity, that creates consistency, very, very beneficial. You don't want containers that are all these different widths going on, okay? Because it makes it a little bit kind of like just disorganized feeling, okay? It's okay to break some stuff out to the edge of the screen. It's okay to have some containers like this that looks a little bit narrower than content width. But what I see from time to time is this container is like, let's say 1366. Then you come down here, this container is like 1350. It's like so close, yet so far. It's like, it's just barely off for no apparent reason whatsoever. And then this one, you come down here and it's like 1348. It's like all these random, what we call magic numbers in web design. It's just a number the person came up with. It really has no meaning. They're just throwing random values in. This happens a lot with padding and margins and things like that, where especially if you're using a builder like Oxygen or Bricks that allows you to drag the padding handles and drag the margin handles. Never do that. Never, ever, ever, ever do that. Don't ever use those controls. No, that's an absolute disaster waiting to happen. You're going to have no spacing rhythm, no spacing flow, consistency. It's not good. And that's why we use Automatic CSS. We use variables for everything. You don't even have to know the values. You just need to know, like, as one content creator put it, Dave. It was Dave Foy. Put it just t-shirt sizes. That's all you just got to know the t-shirt sizes. Small, medium, large, extra large. That's what makes it so easy to remember. But this is your website's content width right here. Okay, now you've got your breakpoints. Breakpoint setup. Read the documentation for breakpoint setup. Everybody wants to do different things here. Okay, and you do want to make sure here it's pretty good practice when you change your website's content width to make the XL breakpoint or whatever the largest breakpoint is match that website width right there. And then you just go ahead and hit save. I will give you a little sneak peek, and you're going to notice on my dashboard right here, because this all runs actually through Dropbox and then VS Code, and it takes a lot longer to save on my local install than it does on a real website install. But we actually added Command S. I love it. You just hit Command S, it saves it for you. Now you don't have to actually click the button. It's going to be, that's 2.6. So you'll be able to Command S save inside of your dashboard. A lot of people requested that. If you're new here, what we just did, by the way, in June, I posted in the ACSS community. I was like, hey, I want to make, my birthday's coming up. I want to make July's update all about what users want. Now, it's got to be a good idea. It's got to be a good idea. But if you feel like you have a good idea and you want to see it in ACSS and it's pretty easy to implement, little stuff like that. And we got tons of ideas, right? And I tried to put as much as possible into the 2.6 update that was user-driven. Still, good. It's got to be a good idea, all right? I'm not putting in bad ideas. But if they were good ideas, I put them in, or they're still being worked on for a later version. Okay, but that was one of them. A lot of people wanted Command S for save. It's in there. It's in there for 2.6. All right, so box layout. This is very, very, very important. Not every website has a box layout. In fact, very few websites have a box layout, but there are some websites that have a box layout. Now, I was just doing the adminbar.com rebuild because I am working on the GeneratePress integration with Automatic CSS, and this is a site that was built with GeneratePress and Generate Blocks. And you see, well, see, you can't see it on my resolution. If we were on a larger monitor, in fact, let me change the resolution. I will change the resolution on the fly. Let me get that bar out of the way too. Let's get this all the way down. Okay. Now let's go to this screen over here and let's get our display. Let's see if we can just bump this up real quick. There you go. Okay. Now it's going to be hard to see on the stream. Well, you can see where the yellow cuts off right here. See where the yellow cuts off? There's actually another background color right here, but it's very close to the what we call like the device background color. This is like a very, very dark gray. This is pure black over here. But you, depending on your resolution or the stream resolution, you may not be able to see that contrast change. But this is a box layout, okay? There is a boxed edge to the website all the way down that is not the content width, and it's not the device width. Okay. Not all websites have this. Very few websites have this. This used to be very popular back in the day. I feel like it's coming back a little bit, but if you want a boxed layout for your website, that is where you turn this on inside of Automatic CSS. And when you turn that on, you get a bunch of different options available to you. So you can set the website background color, the device background color, the width of your box layout, which obviously should be larger than your content width, because you need more room to see the box, okay? You could put a box shadow on that box layout. You could put a margin top on there if you want to, like his example. Did I close that example? No, that's the wrong site. The adminbar.com. Okay, he does not have a top margin on his box layout. Some builders don't allow you to have a top margin when they have their box, like Oxygen, I think, has a box layout feature. Bricks has a box layout feature. You don't have to use theirs. Just use Automatic CSS, turn it on. It has more options. You can add a margin top. You can do border width. You can actually do border width per side. You can have a different border width on each side. How do you do that with this little input right here? You just put more values like that. A lot of people don't realize this is actually, if you hover over the tooltip, it tells you right there. But this would be top, right, bottom, and left. Okay, so you can do anything that you want here with custom borders on your box layout, custom border radius on your box layout, border color. Again, you use more than one value. Okay, so see, I have multiple values in here for border color. You can change the color of the border on every single side if you want to. If you want one side to appear like it doesn't have a border, you can just write the word transparent and then it won't have a color at all. That's a legitimate value right there. And then border style, like it says solid, 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 none. Why does it say all these words? Top, right, bottom, left. You're just defining in a string. Okay, this is like the short form version of these. Okay, but I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. But you can do everything with a box layout that you want to do right there in ACSS, and you don't have to worry about if the builder allows you to do it or if the builder doesn't have enough controls for it. Just don't even worry about the builder. Just use Automatic CSS. It's done. All right, then we're going to go to the palette tab. This is where you set all of your colors. If you've seen some of my builds, my live builds, you've seen me work with this area plenty. Honestly, when I'm doing a brand new website build, this is the only section I really pay attention to before I start building the site. So really with Automatic CSS, it's called automatic for a reason. You don't have to come in and do a bunch of setup and get everything dialed in and get everything figured out before you start building. You just don't have to do that because of the way that it's designed, okay? You just really need to focus on your colors. So come in here and get your colors set. You don't even have to get your shades done. Just get the core colors. What is your action color? What is your base color? Those two are the most important. Then, do you even need a primary? Do you even need a secondary? A lot of sites, you don't even need these other colors. And if you don't need them, I would highly advise you to turn them off. It's going to make the framework a lot lighter for you. You don't need to load a bunch of colors that you're not going to use. So just go ahead and turn those off and then rock and roll. You're ready to go. Shade is all your neutrals. I actually hate that I named this shade. I despise it. It bugs me every single time I open Automatic CSS. I'll probably be changing this to neutral at some point. We're just going to rip the Band-Aid off and say, you know what? Shade was a bad name. And so we're going to go with neutral for this. But this is all of your neutrals, okay? Then you have all your contextual colors. These don't even really need to change on most sites, all right? A success color is a success color. Now, if the brand you're working with is like, no, we have a special success color. Okay, well, go ahead and put it in. That's fine. But most sites, these don't even need to change, right? Danger is danger, warning is warning, info is info. These are classic standard colors for these items down here. If you don't want to use contextual colors, you don't have to use them. Go ahead and turn them off. All right, so that's all good there. And then what I do is I start using the colors and the shades and the transparencies and all of that. And then I decide, based on the design or based on the look that I'm going for, I say, you know what, I need to adjust that ultralight shade right there, or I need to adjust that medium shade, or I need to adjust that dark shade. Then I come adjust it, and I hit save, and it works everywhere. You don't have to set this stuff up ahead of time before you start building the site. Okay, now we get to the typography tab. So one thing I may do before I start building, if I notice that I need to, is I just decide on my base text size, right? Like, is my main body text going to be 16? Is it going to be 18? Is it going to be 20? Is it going to be 20? Like, what's it going to be? So I'll go ahead and set that, because that's super easy. And then I let the scale be the scale. I can adjust and tweak on the fly as I go later. I just kind of need to know what my base is. Same thing for my headings. Just choose what is your base for headings going to be, and then go from there. And this controls the H4. Everything up from the H4 is controlled by the scale. This controls the M size for text. Everything up from there is controlled by the scale. Everything down from there is controlled by the scale. That is your base. Because why? That's the one you use most, okay? All right, and then larger modifier. You know, this is, a lot of people use this larger class. You know, it was a good concept when I first came out with it. I don't hardly ever use it. I probably wouldn't recommend using it. Some people find value in it. If you find value in it and you want to use it, whatever, it's really not that important. Everything that you need to do can be done with your normal text and heading sizes. This was actually before we put a lot of focus on variables. And now that you have variables and calcs with variables, you can literally do anything you want. The larger multiplier is not that important anymore. It was important when we first started. It's really not important at all anymore. So I would just avoid using it if it were me. Fallbacks, you don't even need to touch. This is just for people who, like to use 1996 devices and shit. And so they're not going to see clamps. They're not going to see calcs. They're just going to see pure rim values. And so, who cares about them anyway, right? This is all by default. They're going to have a good experience. So you don't even have to think about it. All right, then we're going to go into spacing. Spacing, base spacing. I mean, unless your design is something crazy, like from the norm, you don't really have to do anything here. Like 30 pixels is a good base spacing amount for most websites. The likelihood that you need to touch this, very low. I hardly ever need to touch the base spacing. But you do want to decide, your section spacing. And this is it's kind of unique to automatic CSS, right? So let me go into pages here. Let me go to add new. And we'll just say new page, okay? So we're going to edit this with bricks. Like, the really good thing about automatic CSS is when I add a section, if you open bricks, okay, you can see the blue lines, right? Open bricks, default vanilla bricks, no plugins, no nothing, okay? And add a section. It's going to have no padding in it whatsoever. It's going to have, all of your shit's going to be scrunched in, and there's no white space, no nothing, no breathing room. Feels very cramped. And you have to make decisions about these things. What should my section spacing be? Well, in automatic CSS, when you, do you want me to go back to the old resolution? Okay, I will go back to the old resolution. I'm going to try to keep my eye on chat, because I do stuff and then I forget about it. We are at least sharing the screen, so that's good. WDD Live people have, they have some history on non-screen sharing while I talk. Okay, so with automatic CSS, notice I added a section to my page. It already has the normal section padding that I would want, right? Now, can this be adjusted? Oh, absolutely, absolutely. If I add another section, and this is what's really different about, you don't see this in any other framework, okay? The ability to come over here, I'm gonna add another section right here. And I'm gonna put BG like base ultralight on here or something. And I'll put BG base light on this one, just so we can see some contrast between the two. So we'll see section 1, and then I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to paste that there. Why can't I paste? Is it because I'm screen sharing? All right. Oh, it did duplicate it. All right, here we go. Section 1, this is going to be section 2. Let's say that I wanted section 2 to have more section padding. Pad section. T-shirt sizes, guys, T-shirt sizes. This is M up here, so I want L, right? I want a little bit bigger T-shirt right here. So now I have more white space in this section than in this section right here. You see how that works? Okay, now, if I build a site and I say, and here's a good example. What was I gonna do? I'm about to do Uber. I think it was Uber. Let's check this out. Yes, it is. Okay, so you see Uber's website. I'm going to do a whole, this is the next tutorial because you guys loved the like, hey, build sites with ACSS and Frames and let's watch, right? So this is going to be the next one that we do. And you notice that they got a nice little like tabbed thing that also changes that. Guys, this can be done with the Frames slider component. I've done a very poor job. It's not all my fault, okay? I'm waiting for these components to get very stable and mainly get out of beta, right? As soon as they're out of beta, which is going to be like August 1st, as soon as they're out of beta, I'm pumping out videos on the components side of Frames. Everybody knows Frames for the layouts, but the components are crazy valuable. And we haven't done a lot to market them. We haven't done a lot to talk about them. That's about to change. But we have a slider component, synced sliders. This is 3 sliders right here. You have a nav slider, you have a background slider, and then you have a content slider. You can do this with Frames. You don't need anything else. You don't need bricks for this. You don't need bricks extras. You don't need anything else. You can do this with Frames, okay? So Frames, link sliders. I'm going to do a tutorial on this. Tabs coming. We've already got the accordion. We've got table of contents. We got the modal, very powerful components inside of Frames, so you don't need anything else. Accessible, well-coded, clean, easy to use. You're going to see. Y'all about to learn today, okay? Anyway, what I was about to say here. See this section padding? Obviously narrower than the section padding that ACSS gave me by default. I can build, and I'm going to actually show you with this page. You can build this entire page, right? And just use the M section padding. This is whatever your standard section padding is, that's M. Okay, use that. Knowing it's too big. This is too big, right? Why? Because I can come over here and I can say my section spacing. This is what's amazing about Automatic CSS. An entire website can be done and about to be shipped. And the client's like, I feel like there's a little too much spacing on our website. Can you like tighten that up a little bit? Well, on most websites, that would kind of be a disaster, right? But in ACSS, you just change the 3 to a 2, or you can do a 2.5, 2.2, 2.228, whatever you want to do. You just change it, and then you come over here, and you refresh, and everything tightens up. The L's get a little tighter. The M's get a little tighter. It's all of the spacing. Your gaps get a little tight. Well, not your gaps, because that's not section spacing. But you can tighten up your gaps with this base spacing right here. So your base can tighten up all spacing, but these section spacing multipliers can just tighten up section spacing. I can even say, you know what? Desktop was fine, but on mobile, it's not tight enough. Well, guess what? You can tighten up mobile independently from desktop. This is very, very, very powerful. Again, after a website is completely built, you can make these changes. That's why I say you don't have to get all this stuff perfect and dialed in before you start building. You can dial it in at the very end if you want to. You just have to make sure that you're using the proper variables, right? So right here I said, well, this section needs to be larger than my other sections, so I'm going to use pad section L. Now you could use XL, XXL. You got more t-shirts to choose from. You just want to make sure the ratios of the labels that you're using are appropriate for what you're trying to accomplish. Okay, but that's an example of the spacing for base, your section spacing. You've got your side padding right here, your gutter, okay? So let's go over here. Let's refresh. Right now, you do not see a gutter. And this is, again, unique to Automatic CSS. Most builders do this wrong. A lot of frameworks do this wrong. I asked for my website content width to be 1366. And when I hover over the container, you see right there on that label, it says 1366. because we don't put the gutter in the container. We put the gutter in the section over here. So on a desktop, you don't know that there's a gutter there. But the minute you start to drag this in, now you start to see that there is, in fact, a gutter, okay? So, and this gutter is responsive. Notice it goes from about 60 right there when the gutter, right there, when the gutter begins, down to a different value. Look how this gutter is shrinking over here, down to a different value on mobile. That comes from these two numbers right here. So when the gutter started on desktop, that's what the value was. It gave you 60 pixels of gap. So somebody on like a laptop, like a MacBook, they're going to see a 60 pixel gutter on the sides of their screen. But somebody on an iPhone is going to see a 16 pixel gutter. And you can make these values whatever you want. Dial this in. A lot of times I have 80 here if you want more breathing room on like laptops. But again, on desktop, you're not even going to see this gutter. It only affects devices that interact with the gutter. So that's nice. Versus like Oxygen Builder does this improperly. They put the gutter inside of the container, which changes your website's content width. And that's no bueno, no good. So you don't want that to happen. And Automatic CSS will prevent that from happening. That's why you want to use your Automatic CSS, okay? Contextual spacing. Very, very, very useful. Very, very, this is like, you should be using these all day long. Classes and variables for these things right here. So let me demonstrate. By the way, another thing in 2.6 that's coming, if you want your little sneak peeks today, auto content gap, auto container gap, auto grid gap. These are going to be, you can turn these on by default. That means any grid you make automatically has a grid gap in it. Any containers you add to a section are automatically container gapped away from each other. So you don't have to add the classes and the variables manually. It's just all taken care of for you. Dramatic improvement to workflow. Absolutely fantastic. Again, this is stuff that other frameworks don't have. It's just, we Automatic CSS basically introduced the concept of these contextual variables as far as I'm concerned. So we have a heading, we have text, we have a button. Just show you an example here. This is content on your website. This is content. You want to gap your content, right? So you can use content gap, and it's going to gap your content. Equal spacing between each item. That's very, very, very handy. Now, some people are like, okay, I want even spacing, but like, let's say the button was last. I want my button to be a little further away than my other content. Guys, this is no problem whatsoever. Little margin top action, t-shirt sizes, XS, S, M. You don't have to know anything crazy. Just put an S on there. Look, I got a little bit more spacing from my button away from my content, so it's not perfectly even if you don't want perfectly even spacing. Content gap got me most of the way there. Little margin top action got me the rest of the way. If you want all your buttons to have a little extra margin top on them, you can just add a global class to target button action. Here's your button action, bam, right? You could put a little margin top on that. You're good to go. All of your, I wouldn't recommend that. But you can. You can do whatever you want. Okay, but that's what content gap is. Now, if I add another container to this section, let's check out what container gap does. Notice these two containers, well, that's no good. They're touching each other. We need some social distancing. Didn't we all learn this in 2020? We need a little social distancing. So we come to our section right here and we say container gap, and then it's going to move my containers away from each other. And the more I add, they just all social distance automatically. Okay? They all respect the social distancing. Okay? Cartman will be happy. Everybody will be happy using this. So you got your container gap. That's what that's for. And then your grid gap. So let's say I put a block in here. Actually, let's use images because I don't have to style it. So let's just throw an image in here. Select image, and we'll just use these kind people right here. It'll actually just be this guy over and over again. So I'm going to grab that container right there. We're going to grid this. So we're going to say, hey, put this in a 3-column grid. Oh, God. Here we go with bricks. Hey, Bricks, if you're watching, please, for the love of God, turn this off. Caption type, no caption. We don't need captions by default, okay? That's just annoying. All right, duplicate, duplicate, duplicate. Let's just do a few more. Okay, so we're going to do container. We've got a grid 3. So what do I do for my gap? I mean, I could do gap S, I could do gap M, I could do gap L, I could do gap XL. No. It's a grid. So use grid gap. Okay, then all your grids have the same gap, and you can adjust that later on. So now I can come back in here, and it's, you know, my container gap, they're a little too far away. All my containers are a little too far away from each other. Okay, no problem. Go from XL to L, or go from L to XXL if you want more. Right? You can dial this in. Guys, you can use, like I said here, because people are like, the t-shirt sizes don't work for me, Jack. I want an in-between size, right? You want that custom fit, you know what I'm saying? So that's okay. Okay, you drop a little calc action in here. You can have whatever you want. So we can do space M times 1.1. That's 10% bigger than space M. Divide 1.1, that's 10% smaller than space M. Anything you want is possible. There are no limitations to what's going on here. Okay, so I'm gonna just put that back. We'll hit save and we'll move on. So this is how contextual spacing works. And again, this makes your life easier because you're making less decisions. Hey, it's a grid, it gets grid gap. Hey, it's content, it gets content gap. Hey, it's a container, it gets container gap. No, there's no thinking. There's no thinking involved. And when you use those throughout your website, at the very end, you could be like, I want all my grids to be a little tighter or a little looser. And you could do that. I want all my containers to be a little tighter, a little looser. I want all my content to be a little tighter, a little looser. All of that is possible. Gives you tremendous flexibility. All right, let me jump in the chat here and make sure Kevin sounds like the ShamWow guy. Look, I mean, I could just talk like we're in a fucking library all day, but I think people would be, you know, they wouldn't be as exciting, would it? Okay. You could turn off the caption defaults from the theme in bricks. Oh my gosh, are you serious? Hold on. Theme, style. See, this is really why I do this, because y'all teach me some things sometimes. Let's go to, where would I go? Where would I go? I'm putting you on the screen, Sandra, right here. You can turn off caption defaults from the theme in bricks. So do I just go to image? Is there an image somewhere in here? Ah, look at this. Oh my gosh. You win a t-shirt. I need to get some ACSS t-shirt. Thank you. Gosh, this is so nice. Gonna have to add that to the blueprint. Andrea, if you're taking notes, say, let's make that change in the blueprint, because that kills me every single time. Okay, thank you for that. All right, let's see what else people got going on. Okay, a bunch of questions. We will get to those. All right. We're good. Okay. All right, I think we're good to go. Let's just keep going. So that's section spacing. That's contextual spacing. That's your base spacing. Buttons and links. Okay, in here, what I will say, we give you a button set for every single color. You almost never need that. So I would just run to here and be like primary off, secondary off, accent off, base off, and just if you need them, then you turn them back on, right? Base button is good from time to time because you need that dark, sometimes you need a dark button or a light button or whatever. But you do have a black button and a white button if you want pure, right? But if you don't need black, you don't need white, go ahead and turn those off too. Just turn on whatever you need, all right? But this is where you customize your default button styling. And you can do a lot with this. And I showed in the last build how we can go from a solid button to an outline button. We can do an outline button to a solid button. We can do solids over here and outlines over here. There's a lot of possibilities with this basic setup right here. Here's all your global defaults for buttons. You got your button padding, your minimum button width. And what this ensures, guys, is that let's say you need a action button, an outline version of your action button, a black button, a white button, and outline versions of both of those buttons. This is very common on a website. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of work you got to do. But with Automatic CSS, they're already done. You just add them and they're done. You don't have to, there's no decisions, there's no naming conventions, there's no nothing. They're already done. And then when you add the padding, it changes the padding across all of those buttons. You can set a minimum button width across all of those buttons. So all of your buttons will behave the same. When you put an outline button next to a solid button, they'll be the exact same height. Okay. Everything will be nice and uniform. All of this is already thought through for you. It's already figured out and it's already set up. And then you can come in here and just tweak things as you need. And as you tweak, everything will stay consistent and nothing will break. That's the idea here. So very easy to do with your buttons, links, pretty much self-explanatory. Hey, 2.6 people, you want a little, yeah, you can inherit styles now in links and buttons, and anything that can be like this can also be inherited. That was another big thing that people asked for. Okay. Link decoration, you got your underline offset. We're adding underline offset color. We're adding underline offset thickness. Okay, so that can all be controlled from here. Action button we went over, turn off all the others. Yeah. That's good. Buttons and links. Okay. Additional styling. So your focus outline color. We do have a extra couple settings coming for this in 2.6. But this is just when people do tab navigation on your website, you know, the little border that shows up over what the person is selecting. That's how you control this here. So you can change the color of it. You can also change the color of the focus outline on the fly, which you can't do in most other frameworks. You use focus classes for that. I'm not going to go into, that's not super exciting or anything, you know, for the people who care a lot about accessibility. These focus utility classes will change the focus color on the fly in any section or block or whatever. So if you have like an action colored background and then you have a link inside of that, when somebody focuses on it, well, the focus outline is action and the background is action. That obviously doesn't work, right? Those clash. So you can say in that section, I want the focus to be black. So you say focus black or focus base or focus. You have all of the colors are an option for you, but you can change your focus color on the fly, which is very unique. And it's a pain in the ass to do this manually on websites, but Automatic CSS does it for you. And that's kind of one of these features that's just a lot of people don't know about, but it's there and it's super handy when you actually need to do it. Okay, header styling. This is critical. Offset page content automatically and header heights. These two settings go together. That's why they're grouped together right here. Header heights are important to set even if you're not doing offset page content automatically. There are sometimes when you're building a website, you need to reference the height of your header for whatever reason. You might be doing overlaps. You might be doing scrolls. You might be doing, there's a bunch of stuff you might do. You need to reference the height of the header. So it's a good idea to come in here and put in your header heights. Now, I'm not going to go into detail on this. It's manual, right? You go to the front end, you measure your header, you come in and put here. The reason I'm not going to go into detail on this is because I'm trying my damnedest to maybe in 2.6, okay? I'm not making any promises. Maybe in 2.6. All these inputs are gone, more or less, and there's just a button. And you just click the button, and it just auto-calculates the height of your header. And then you just move on with your life, and you don't have to do this. That's what we're aiming for right there. There's a lot of things to consider. It sounds easy, but there's a lot of things to take into consideration for this. So I can't make any promises, but that's the end goal. Then you don't have to worry about these fields. Now, this is I'm going to do a whole video of features that don't exist in any other framework, just so we're all on the same page. When you're using an overlay header, you know, a header that sits inside of your page content, it's not, your page content isn't below it, it's under it. What that overlay header does, people love them because they're very modern looking. It's very like clean looking and it's really nice. They're really nice. They're also a huge pain in the ass, because they take up space in your first section, which means automatically that even white space that we had, this nice balanced white space. Let me get rid of this grid. See this nice balanced white space? Well, as soon as you stick a header in there and it's taking up room up top, it looks like you have more space on the bottom than you do up top. Now everything is off balance, right? And then you've got to figure out, how do I offset that? And not just how do I offset it on this one page, because your header's on every single page of your website mostly. So that's a pain in the ass. It's a big pain in the ass. But in Automatic CSS, you just go like that, and then you hit save, and it's all just taken care of for you. It's just fixed. And it does that by offsetting the inside of the first container of a page. It targets this inner element, and it offsets it, and it just works. So just use that. You don't have to figure it out. Just use this. But that's what that setting is for right there. Now, if you're not using an overlay header, you wouldn't want to turn this on. But you still need to set your header heights. Okay, scroll offsets. When you scroll to an anchor link, you maybe want some breathing room, right? You don't want the top of the browser to be right at the top of that anchor. So you can set offsets here for any scrolling that happens, or sticky as well. So if you want your sticky elements to have an extra offset, you can offset using this would be another reason you set your header heights, because for a sticky element and an overlay header, you don't want the header covering up your sticky element. I could demonstrate all this, but it's going to take a lot of time to like build it all out. And I've demonstrated it all before. I just want to make sure that we're going over just a general, here's what Automatic CSS can do for you. So offsets are set right here. The offset is added to the header height. So if you have 105 and then you have, let's say you have a sticky element. So the bottom of your header would touch the top of the sticky element. That's not good. At least it's not covering it up, but that's still not good. You still want more of an offset. So no problem. You come into the offsets here, add an offset, and it's whatever you put in the value here is what the gap is going to be between the header and the sticky element, or between the browser and the sticky element. Okay, box shadows here. This is very open-ended. It looks a little messy, but it's because it's very, very open-ended. It kind of allows you to do anything. Like you can go to a box shadow generator right here. Box shadow CSS generator. You can really use any of these. This one's terrible. What is the one I use off the top of my head? It's got a really Brum. Yeah, it's got a really weird name. Brum.af. Okay. So like, look at this. I can just grab this whole thing. I actually just want the instructions in the middle. All right. And then I can come over here and I can say paste. Okay. There's my box shadow. That's going to be box shadow main right there. And I hit save changes. Now I can go use that box shadow using box shadow main, a class, and it says right here, right? var box shadow. It's saying im because im is actually the default. Notice I've changed it. See, I reset there. It also allows you to change the name. So you could say box shadow, brand or whatever. Like it's whatever name you want. It's going to change the class to that name. It's going to change the variable to that name. And then whatever box shadow instructions are here, that's the box shadow you're going to get when you use that class or when you use that variable. So that's really helpful. Custom box shadows. It doesn't have a fancy builder and all of that stuff, but do you really need one? I mean, look what I did. I went here. Look, you can just use any generator like this, right? Do whatever you want. All right, you get this whole visual thing going on. This is the ugliest box shadow that's ever been created in mankind. And then you just grab the values and you copy them. You come over here to ACSS, you hit paste, you save, you move on with your life, right? You don't need that like in this dashboard right here. Maybe one day, but we'll see. We'll see. Selection styling. Let's go to the front end here. Refresh. You know when you select text, okay? You can actually color that selection. If you want it to be like your website's brand color or action color or whatever, come in here and pop in a variable. All right, now that's going to be my action color. And you can change the text color when that selection happens. All of that can be changed from right here. Again, this is an area of the dashboard maybe you don't visit so much, maybe you don't look at so much, but it allows you to do some pretty cool things. Now, alt selection, background and text color. Why do we need that? Well, again, same problem. Let's say you have a action colored background. You don't want action selection color either, because those two things, you won't be able to see one or the other. So that in that instance, you use an alt, right? And so it tells you right here, sets the background color value for the selection alt class. So if, let's say that this was BG action up here. So I'm going to select this section and we'll take off base ultra light, BG action, okay? Obviously, my select color can't be action now. So I would say, let's go back here. Look, right here, selection -- alt, okay? Selection -- and it's auto-suggesting it right there, alt. Now it will use my alt selection color and my alt text color in that section. Again, this is like, putting finishing touches on a website where you're like, yeah, I don't want the default browser selection color. I want to do something a little fancier. Well, you can do that with Automatic CSS, and you have an alt version for any instances where that selection color might clash with backgrounds and so on and so forth. Radius system, you almost never need to touch. What I will say this is just get your base radius as your im radius, medium radius, back to t-shirt sizes. Just get this set to whatever the im value should be, because here's the thing about radius. Whether it's a card or an image or whatever, almost always radius is the same throughout the entire website. Buttons, okay, they all use the same radius for maximum consistency. So just set that here, and that's your radius M or your rounded M classes, and just use radius M everywhere, rounded M everywhere, and then your radius is controlled from this one point. If for some reason you need a smaller radius here or there, it's always available to you via variable, radius, L, X. Again, it's back to t-shirt sizes. People are like, why is it, there's 1,000 utilities. You can't memorize all of this. There's only a base set, right? Space, radius, margin, gap, right? If you know the names of the base things, automatically I know all 6 section spacing classes, all 6 normal spacing classes, all 6 gap classes, right? I just know those because they're all t-shirt sizes. XS, S, M, L, XL, XXL. So you just rattled off 6 utilities, right? But they're all associated with one core utility, and then it's just t-shirt sizes added to them. It's the same thing with the colors, right? If you know action, primary, secondary, accent, base, shade. Well, I just rattled off, 6? Okay, now expand that to like 80. You already know them in your head. It's ultra light, light, medium, dark, ultra dark, hover, and then all the transparencies. Trans 10, trans 20, trans 30, trans 40, trans 50. See how many utilities we can count individually, but they're all tied to words you already know. Like all of the colors are just tied to the name of the color. So if you know the convention of I need a shade, okay, it's primary light, primary dark, primary ultra dark, primary medium. You're rattling off all these utilities simply because I know what t-shirt sizes are and I know what the names of the shades are. And then I add the word trans, and suddenly I have transparencies for those. And that now I took 6 utilities and turned it into 80 utilities. And people are like, how do you memorize? You don't have to memorize. You just have to know what the names are. Once you know the names, you're good to go. And 6 can become 60 or 80 or whatever it is. All right, last couple tabs here, and then we're going to start taking questions. So your options right here. Smooth scrolling. This is CSS smooth scrolling, so it's accessible. JavaScript smooth scrolling, which many builders use, is not accessible. So if you care about accessibility, turn off smooth scrolling in the builders, turn on smooth scrolling in automatic CSS. You'll have accessible smooth scrolling. Fixed paragraph and heading spacing. Absolutely critical. Turn this on every single website. Just turn this on. Just take my advice. Turn this on. This is actually getting in 2.6 more options. You'll have your list wrapper, your list item spacing. Very, very, very crucial for like blog posts and stuff like that. So that's coming in 2.6. But what this does is, let's say you want to use this gap right here. Let me clear all this trash out. Okay, so let's go to section. Let's go to heading. Let's go to text. And let's go to button. Let me see if I can demonstrate. I don't know if I have any other resets chosen. Let's turn this off. Save. I might have another. I don't know what branch I'm in. I've got 8 development branches in VS Code, and that's what's tied to this specific website right here. Let's go to, all right, let's refresh here. Save. Let's just refresh on the front end. Okay. So there's no spacing, right? Let's see if this does what I think it's going to do. Okay, no, I apparently have another reset. Okay, or did I not refresh the builder? Let's see. Okay, normally what would happen here, this is a div, right? A div is not a semantic tag. This is not, we can all see this is not a div. This is a paragraph of text. So you change this to P for paragraph, and it'll add spacing because browsers and builders love to say, hey, you might want to space that out a little bit. And so they give you default spacing attached to this paragraph. Sometimes headings have it as well. So a heading will have like a little bottom margin, the paragraph of a little bottom margin. And then you're like, hey, I want to space all this out evenly. So you do something like content gap, like we just already talked about, and it spaces it evenly, except it's not even. Why is it not even? Because you have the gap plus that default paragraph spacing plus that default heading spacing. Now everything is not even, okay? All you have to do to fix that, you turn on fixed paragraph and heading spacing, save changes. Now when you come back, all of those defaults are gone and you have perfectly even spacing in your containers. Turn that on every single website. Then you open a blog post, right, with rich text. All your headings and text paragraphs, they're all spaced out weird. They're not consistent. When you turn this on, Here's your values for paragraphs. Here's your values for headings, because a lot of times we want headings to have more top spacing than paragraphs. This is controlled from right here. Your blog post styling is all taken care of for you, especially now that we're adding the list styling in here. This saves a tremendous amount of time, headache, and consistency issues right here. Just turn this on, hit save, move on with your life. You don't have to think about anything else. Okay. Builder settings, if you want all the flashy contextual panels and all that, okay, style, layout, spacing, this stuff right here. You want all your like live previews of what's going on here. All of that is these options right here for builder settings. You want your, oh, by the way, big change in 2.6, all this stuff's gonna be on by default. Why? Because like 70% of the support tickets now are, how do I get those panels that I see in all the videos? How do I get the calc expansion going on like I see in all the videos? So like if I want space M here, see how I just automatically wrote the var for me? I just do double dash space M, bam, wraps it in a var. If I want to do space M times 1.1, enter, it puts it in a calc and wraps the var. People are like, how do you do that magic? Well, you got to turn it on, right? So I just feel like maybe it should just be on by default. That way people don't have to ask. It just works out of the box for them. And then if you want to turn it off, you can always come back here and just turn these off. For my Gutenberg friends, oh my gosh, there is some good stuff coming to Gutenberg. I don't know if I can show you. Maybe I can show you. Nah, I don't know. I don't know if I can show you. I don't know. There's some good stuff coming to Gutenberg. You're going to like this. And then Pro Mode. So let's just talk about Pro Mode, then we're going to start asking questions. We're not going to get into form styling and all that. I will say this. If you want to, let's say you're a beginner and you're like, I need to learn automatic CSS. I need to get this going. Just activate this and hit save and just know, okay, here's the one thing you have to know. And I'm going to tell you to turn this on because things as you learn and as you try to build are not going to work. And what I will tell you is it's probably things that shouldn't work based on the approach that you're taking. This is kind of like, this would protect you. If you're learning, this will protect you kind of from doing the wrong thing, okay? And if you already know what you're doing, you already want this on anyway, okay? So what this does is it turns off sets of classes that in the vast majority of cases, you should be using variables instead of classes. So it's going to turn off a lot of utility classes. You're still going to have the variables to do all of these things. Everything that you see here that just got turned off can be done either with the builder, should be done with the builder, or should be done with variables, okay? And this saves you. This saves you. This is scalability and maintainability 101. And it makes the framework way lighter, okay? So I would just turn this on. If it were me, I would just tell everybody, just turn this on. Even though it says pro mode, right? If you're learning, learn the right way. Just rip the Band-Aid off and say, I'm going to learn the right way. And turn on pro mode. Now, we are working on a feature where in bricks, in the auto suggest right here, okay? You're still going to see everything. All of the standard utility classes, right? You're going to see them. Hopefully, very, very, very soon, probably not 2.6, 2.7, hopefully, everything that's turned off will also disappear from this section right here. They won't be removed from the database because that would F up your website. And the reason we haven't done it yet is because that's an unrepairable thing. If you remove them and then you decide you want them back, well, we can put them back, Jack, but we can't put them back on every element you use them on. That is an unrecoverable error, which is why we haven't done this yet. We're going to handle it differently. We're not going to remove them from the database. We're just going to remove them from autosuggest. So that'll clear up a little bit of the confusion here. But ideally, like, let's say padding classes or margin classes. Margin classes is probably a good one, like margin top or something like that. You don't need to be doing that. Like you have a custom class for that, or you can do that at the ID level sometimes. You should be using the variables for margin in most of these cases. Same thing. Section padding. Why does that stay on? It's probably better to explain the on ones. Why does section padding stay on? Because section padding needs to change on the fly all the time, right? I need to be able to do that pad section L thing that I showed earlier. Whether I'm a pro, amateur, beginner, using BIM class, it doesn't matter. I need to be able to change section padding on the fly. So that kind of utility will stay on. Breakout. Why does breakout stay on? Because most people don't know how to do a breakout. Let me show you what a breakout is. So you come in here to image. It's harder to see on this high resolution, which is why I don't use these this high resolution a lot. Okay, let's put this at 100% width. So it's like, I asked for 100% width. Why isn't it into my gap over here, right? Well, again, there's a content width of this website and you have to break out of it, right? So you got to break out full and now it's going to break out to the edges. See, you know, that's not easy to do. If you want to write CSS, that's not easy to do. With automatic CSS, it's just a class. Why does that class stay on in pro mode? Because most people don't know how to do that. So we give you the class utility and you're good to go. So that kind of stuff stays on, right? The really, really most helpful stuff, grid classes, okay? Obviously, I can use grid variables, but there's a really good case for using grid classes for a lot of things. So that utility stays on in pro mode. Gap classes stay on in pro mode. Flexbox classes stay on in pro mode. The stuff we turn off is the stuff that you should either do with BIM and variables, or if you really need them, you can come turn it on. See, if I do pro mode and it turns off a bunch of stuff, but I decide I really, really, really need that thing, it's okay. You can just come turn it on and now it's on, right? You're not stuck with these things being off. It's just a suggestion of you should probably start with these things off and then figure out if you really, really, really need them later as you go. Okay, so that's pro mode. And that's why I say just start with them off, because it's not stuck that way. You can always turn it back on if you need them. Nothing is going to break. Okay, now we need to get to questions. That was enough of, we're an hour in. I just want to do a little dashboard overview. Question time. I'm going to scroll up and I'm going to start looking for questions. Okay. All right, here we are at the top. Question. Kareem, my man. Kareem with the question spam. Okay. ACSS yearly plans will provide offers discount from time to time. Probably not. Question. I'm going to try to fly through these. If they don't need a lot of explanation, I'm not going to do a lot of explanation. Hand code with ACSS still limiting when it comes to using mix-ins or variables instead of utility classes. How ACSS will address this? I don't know what you mean by hand code. Do you mean handwriting CSS, or do you mean literally hand coding a website? So Kareem, you got to give me a little extra on that. I don't know which one you're talking about. When you are absent for any personal reason, I can throw these up on the screen. Does the team of ACSS Frames still progress without you? Absolutely, it can. Yes, it can. The ACSS framework doesn't, because I choose for it not to, because I do all of the framework development. Okay. Then we have a Frames team that does Frames development, but I'm active in there as well. And then we have a Frames component team, and then we have a automatic CSS, all of the contextual, when we acquired Plaster, right? Christoph heads up all of that stuff. So if I'm out on a boat like I was on my birthday, right? I'm looking at dolphins, right? The work is still being done. So Christoph still got improvements going on contextual stuff, or all the overlays, all of those panels and the builder inputs and all of that. And Waji's got stuff going on with the Frames components, sliders and tabs are being done. The rest of the team's working on actual frames that are going to be released. Like, all that stuff's going on still. Doesn't matter really what's going on with me. Dahunzi says, when will Kareem run out of questions? That's a good one, Dahunzi. That's a good question. Kareem says, great, thank you. Okay. Core Framework came out with the amazing feature Components, which gives huge flexibility even in its early stages. Will ACSS provide such a thing in the near future? I want to focus on ACSS for this. This will be the only question I answer about the Core Framework, just because it's interesting. So you look at something like that and you might come to the conclusion, or you have this premise, right? Your premise, Kareem, is that this is an amazing feature called Components. When I looked at the feature, I was like, I don't think that's going to be a good workflow. We could get into the whole philosophy of like, Do you want to constantly leave the builder to go to another secret area, special area, magic area, as I often call it? And this is not just about core. This is about generate does this. Breakdance does this. The more you have to leave the builder environment to go to other places to do things, the more horrific your workflow is going to be. This is absolutely horrific. I hate leaving the builder. If I can do it in the builder, I want to do it in the builder because that's where I'm doing my work. That's where 98% of the work is getting done. Every time you ask me to leave the builder to go to somewhere else, I hate it. I just don't like it. And you even have to do that with ACSS with this dashboard, which is why 3.0 probably won't even have a dashboard. Okay, we're reimagining because unlike many builders and frameworks, there's a lot of frameworks out there, and I would say the majority of page builders. So this isn't a knock on another framework or anything like that. It's just a fact of most frameworks and page builders, the people building them don't actually build websites. Did you know that? Right? They just build software. And so we run into this constant conflict of like, well, that's a good idea and it's a good feature. It seems like great, but have you actually used it in a real workflow? Because then it reveals that it's not so great. And that's why we have to constantly put in feature requests for these things and bug fixes, because it's like things happen that they didn't think might happen because they don't actually build websites with the tool. Like I have an agency. I'm using ACSS on every single website that I build, that we build, right? I'm constantly using the tool. That's why the workflow is really dialed in, okay? And that's why we also care about builder overrides, like how ACSS behaves in Bricks versus Oxygen versus Gutenberg. Because with other frameworks, you'll run into issues in specific builders, and it becomes a nightmare. It's a little bit of a headache. It's Crockford's Law. You get 90% of the way in before you realize, oh, there's 10% missing that I really, really, really need. And our goal with ACSS is that that doesn't happen. We defeat Crockford's Law. So you get 100% of the way in, and 100% of the features are there that you needed. And the workflow is really good. So back to this idea of components. Generate and Breakdance both ask you to make components in a different area. And I hate that idea of a workflow. I just absolutely hate it. I don't think it's a good workflow. I think it's very inefficient, especially when I can make the component right there in the builder that I'm already in, right? Take a card, for example. I can make let's just make a card together. Let's just make a card together, okay? This is not difficult stuff. So how does this work in Automatic CSS? I want a grid of cards. Okay, great. Grid 3. So we're going to have a grid of 3 cards. I'm going to pop in a block right here. So here's my block. We're going to call it card. Okay, this is the workflow. This is the workflow. I say my special card. Great, special card. Then I add a heading. Then I add text. Then I add a button. The builder, just so that we're all on the same page, is writing HTML right now. The builder has not written any CSS. The builder didn't even write any CSS to create the grid. Automatic CSS wrote that CSS to create your grid. So the builder has done nothing in terms of writing CSS yet, but it's about to. It's about to. So I can go into heading, and I've got my special card, and this is a heading, right? And then, by the way, if you hit Command Enter, it'll bring the classes box open for you, so you don't have to keep mousing up there and clicking on it. But that's going to be text. And then same thing with my button here, which I don't even really need one on there. I would put button action on here. Okay. So now I want to style my special card. Well, guys, the builder happens to give me lots of great tools right here for styling. I don't know if any of y'all know that, but it does. And so you can come in here and you can say, well, I want some padding in my card. Now, here is where you be Automatic CSS minded. Why do all of those variables exist? For this exact situation. So you want all of your spacing in this card to be tied into Automatic CSS. You don't want to throw magic numbers all over the place. Oh, I think this will be 68. Why? Because it looks great. I don't think that, let's see. I think that looks pretty good right there. Or those draggable handles, right, that we talked about earlier. No. Consistency. Consistency. So I want var. Actually, I don't even have to write var. Let's just do _M and then hit enter. And now I have medium spacing in my card. Okay, so remember we were like t-shirt sizes. I want a little bit more. Great, L, okay? Or XL. You could do whatever you want or need to do here. Hey, Kevin, I want the in-between size. I want the custom fit t-shirt. No problem. Go to a calc, space M times 1.2. Give me 1.2 times space M. Now I've got it. I can do whatever I want. There's no limitation here whatsoever. Now I want to gap that stuff in the card, right? Row gap. What is this? It's content, guys. Content gap. Okay, give me my content gap. I want half that. All right, content gap divided by 2. Bam, I got half that. I'm moving on with my life. Now I'm going to go into, and by the way, if you don't know the names yet, let's take this out of here. Right click it. They're right here. Here you go. Here's your t-shirt sizes. Drop it in. Bam. Okay, so that's another option for you. If you are actually learning the framework names, you're all good there. Then I can go over here and I can say, what are my backgrounds? All right, well, I can just go into my colors right here. Do we want an action medium card, an action card? Let's do an action card. Okay, oh, here's an example, guys. Look at this. Button action on an action card. Doesn't look so good. Okay. Well, guess what? I don't have to worry about, oh God, now I got to go create a white button or a black button or a base button. No. They're already made for you, right? So you can just, oh, I turned off base. So I would have to go back in the dashboard and turn it on. And this is why you're going to see going back to the dashboard, kind of a bad workflow, right? That's why we're trying to get away from it. But if I did button black, there you go. Now I have a button black. Or I could do button white. Okay, these are already options available to me because I didn't turn those off in the dashboard. So now I'm on the fly, but look at what I'm not doing. I'm not leaving the builder, okay? Now, I want this text to be, let's say, part of my action family, because that looks good from a contrast standpoint. So let's go action dark there. Let's go action, we could do action ultra dark. Dark's not bad. It's a little bit bad on the contrast. Let's do action ultra dark, and we'll do action ultra dark on here as well. Okay, so save. Now, let's say I want a radius. Oh, gosh, where's my radius? Okay, let's go to border. Let's go to border, radius. I'm going to go with radius M, like I talked about earlier. Now I've got the radius on my card pulled straight out of Automatic CSS. All right, so let's go to the front end. Okay, let me refresh, open, there. So there's my card. I also have a grid, mind you, so I can duplicate that a few times. And then I can say, I want this to have a gap. Which kind of gap? Hey, grid gap, please. Save. Okay, refresh. There is my grid. There are my, this is my component. Okay, this is my component. I didn't have to go anywhere else to make this component. I'm using a page builder. So why shouldn't I just use the page? This is the workflow of building. We don't need to go to a magic area and build some things and then come back to this area to try to use those things. We just build them in the area that we're already working in, and then we move on with our life. You're going to have to really do a lot of work to convince me that it's better to go to a magic area to do stuff and then come back to this area to use it over and over and over again. Now, what about buttons, right? You got to go back to the magic area, do the button. What about the next component that you need? Oh, got to do that all over again. Go back to the magic area. This is a lot of inefficiency. This is a lot of back and forth. And again, I asked the question, why? You're in a builder, right? Right here is the controls, okay? You just need to be able to hook in. And that's what all of the variables are for, that allow you to hook into everything in your framework. So you're not abandoning the framework by saying, well, this is going to be 30 pixels or whatever, right? You're using the framework for everything. That makes the most sense from a workflow standpoint. So yeah, while a magic area might be flashy and look cool and all of that, my question is, workflow-wise, what's that going to do to the workflow? And to me, it just doesn't look like a good workflow option. Okay, let's keep going with the questions. Question, what are your thoughts on Jet Engine? Okay, I've never used Jet Engine before. I don't think Jet Engine is related to ACSS or to frameworks or to CSS in general. That's more like that's a CPT plugin, right? So we'll skip that question today. Let's go down. Frames. I import some frame and I want to change. This is a good one right here. Common question. I import some frame and I want to change the styling only for this specific one. What would be the best approach? Okay, so let's jump out. Here we go. Blank slate, templates, remote templates. Let me refresh, get the latest version of frames and see what's going on here. Okay, so let's do author page alpha. Actually, I'm not on a template. So let's do one that's not template focused. Let's go into remote. Let's do Let's just do a hero, something used all the time. Let's go into grab hero. We can do like a, you want to do golf? You want to do Juliet? Let's do Juliet. Okay, bam, there's your hero. Now, why is this already styled? I have to answer this question automatically every single time. This is already styled because I styled its class at some point in this install. And so it's always going to come with styling now because I styled its class. The question was, how do I style this one hero? Let's say I'm going to use this hero in other places, but I just want this one to be so unique. It's its own little snowflake, okay? So you've got these classes attached to every frame. Every item in every frame has a custom class. The custom class is for if you want that styling to apply to every iteration of this frame. That's what we don't want in this regard. So automatically, don't use the classes. I don't use the classes. So this is where you can use ID level styling. Why would you use ID level styling here? You told me you wanted it to be unique. If it's going to be a unique snowflake, that's what ID styling is for. Or you can use utility classes here. So like if I wanted BG base ultralight. Okay, so I'm going to put that on. Now I get the base ultralight, which on this is a dull gray color. So nothing super exciting there. Let's do BG action ultralight, something like that. That'll at least have a little color in it. It's got a little very light blue color. Okay, so you see that when I import this frame again, it's not going to have that background color. Why? Because I added that background color via utility class to this one individual instance of this frame. Now, I'm going to take that off and I'm going to grab this class, Hero Juliet. And I'm going to say, you know what? We're going to do Action Ultra Light right here. And see, I can preview them too. See what it's going to look like. Action Ultra Light. Now, different story. Because I styled this class, any FR Hero Juliet element that I import is going to have this background color by default now. Because I've told it to. I've said, hey, if you are an FR Hero Juliet, you better have this background color. But is that bad? Is that bad? Maybe still in snowflake situations, like a unique instance, you want it to start this way, but you want to be able to override it. Well, you always have that option because ID level styling overrides classes. So I can still say that this unique one, even though it started out as that Action Ultralight, I can make it whatever I want. I can do Shade Ultralight. See how I refresh? See how it's Shade Ultralight? Now, if I remove that ID styling right here, it's going to go back to what? Whatever the class was telling it to be. Okay, so I think the confusion is there's multiple ways to achieve what you're trying to achieve. I could use pure utility classes. I could use ID level styling. I can style the class. The only thing you can't do is you can't style FR Hero Juliet. At least I don't think. This is going to depend on the order of the cascade. Now we're getting a little bit technical, okay? So if I did BG base ultralight, notice that class doesn't do anything. Because Hero Juliet was defined later than BG base ultralight. They're both trying to set a background color. They're competing classes. This class is winning because it was defined later in the build than this class was. The utility classes are all defined early, right? And this class was defined later. We actually did that for a very specific reason. And other frameworks don't do it like this. They do it opposite. They load their utilities last so that their utilities crush everything else. And what we said with Automatic CSS is, no, we want to defer to what the user is using the builder to do, not what they're using the utility classes to do. Because these are just dumb utility classes, right? A custom BEM class should override a utility class. You're taking extra steps to say, no, this is a component and I want it to be styled a certain way. Doesn't matter how many utilities I slap on here now, this is going to take precedence. We designed Automatic CSS that way, where other frameworks will just crush whatever you've already done with the utility. We don't do that. So just that's a little bit of a more advanced explanation. But to answer the question, style the class if you want them all to look that way. If you don't want them all to look that way, style at the ID level, as long as it's a unique instance. Now you get into a middle ground where you're like, well, I want this to be a unique header or hero, but I might use it on 2 or 3 different pages. Okay, now we got to have a broader discussion of, instead of FR Hero Juliet, what you're going to want to do is say hero and then give it some contextual name that matches where you're going to be using this thing. You could say like hero secondary or hero whatever. So this is like my secondary hero, not my primary hero. And then copy whatever styles need to be copied from Juliet over to hero secondary. And this will get a lot easier when Bricks expands the functionality of class management. But you can come down here and you could say copy styles from hero Juliet and then paste styles on it. See, that wasn't that hard, right? So I'm pasting whatever defaults are there. But now I have this new class. I can take this off. I have this new class called hero secondary, and it did lose a style there, didn't it? So Bricks failed to copy something. It lost the container gap. It looks like. There you go. Now my container gap is back. It also lost the padding. Bricks, what are you doing? So it lost the bottom padding came back. Okay. But that's the theory anyway, if Bricks does what it's supposed to do. But now you have this hero secondary class that you can do anything you want with it to style this hero section. And then any hero with hero secondary is going to look exactly like that. And that's independent now from FR Hero Juliet. I still have to do a whole video on this and walk through. I'm trying to find a way to make it as simple as possible in the explanation because it requires a little bit of knowledge of the cascade for classes and ID level styling specificity. It has some technical things that you kind of need to understand. And I'm just like, how do I like really, really make it basic? Like, so everybody can grasp it on the first go. But what I will say is FR Hero Juliet. So let's bring this back in. Okay, let's do, oh, I need to be in remote templates. So hero Juliet, I'm going to insert that. Almost always, you're not going to run into that middle ground situation. You're okay to just style the class if you want it to apply to all of this instance of the frame. Or if it's a unique frame, then just style it the ID or use utility classes, and that answers your question. The middle ground is that we just talked about a minute ago, is kind of a more rare situation. And we can help you with that rare situation if it needs to happen, but a lot of times it doesn't even need to happen. Hopefully that was the answer you were looking for. Okay. Question. Can we expect a comparison video between ACSS and its competitors? No, everybody gets butthurt when I do comparisons. Just use them in the builders they claim to support and see how far you get, and then use ACSS. And, I am confident that if you want to waste the time using all of them, that you're going to come to the conclusion that I came to. That's all I'll say. Are you planning on adding tables for frames? I assume that you are talking about legit HTML, old school, like table row, table header, like that kind of table. Probably a basic one. I don't know how many we'll add. The thing is you can just add a frame, add a table plugin, and you're not only you're going to get the tables you want, you're going to get an array of other possibilities, like integration with Google Sheets and like all this other stuff that would require a whole nother product, right? So we'll give you basic ones for like basic situations, but if you want like advanced table type stuff, you're better off just throwing a table plugin in there and moving on with your life. All right, let's see. Question, when will ACSS be integrated in quickly? With any luck, 2.7. So generate blocks is 2.6, quickly is 2.7. Okay, let's see. Looking for questions. Is there any news about ACSS Frames in the Figma? Yes. We've shifted that to like beginning of August, but yes. And more teasers are coming for that very shortly. All right, let's keep going down. I want to find some beginner questions especially. I want to make sure that the beginners are getting what they need. We've done some more advanced stuff here. The naming of the colors is not intuitive to me. Can you walk me through why a color would be primary versus secondary versus action versus shade, base, and why? Okay, this is a common beginner question. Here's what I'll give you. I'll give you that primary and secondary are sometimes difficult to figure out. Let's take the ones that are not difficult off the table. Action, not difficult ever in the slightest. You look at a design of a website. Every website that is designed properly, the buttons are going to stand out. Okay? Whatever color the buttons and the links are, that is your action color. You are asking the user to take an action. That's a button, that's a link. Okay? So that's your action color. There's really nothing else to talk about there. So that's taken care of. That's done. Now let's go to base. There's two ways to go about your base color. What I would recommend, see, a lot of websites are a light base. Look at this website right here. It has a color on this one background section, right? Where did I do that? The ID level? Did the builder? No, that is white. Okay. For some reason, oh, it is. Okay. There we go. I just had to refresh. See how that's white? This is like what would be called a white base or like a light base. I wouldn't recommend, you can do this, but I wouldn't recommend setting white as your base color. You're just wasting a color, okay? Because you can already go to viewport and for website background color, set var white. It's done. Like you already achieved that white background for your entire website. You don't need to waste a color on putting this as white. I always say the general rule is in your design, look at a design. Let's go to like uber.com. That was a design I was using a minute ago. What is this, guys? Is this a light-based website or is this a dark-based website? Well, it's kind of hard to tell because this is dark, but this is light, and this is dark, and this is light. A lot of light. There's a lot of light in there, but there's a lot of dark in there. So what is it? Well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You can set white as the background of the entire website, like I just told you, and then you can have a base color that is effectively like the opposite of that. So I say, find the website's design. What is the dark color that they're using on some of the backgrounds? And in this case, it would be this right here, which we could sample this and say, is this pure black? It is. That's kind of boring, but it's pure black. So I could come in here and I could put in now with base. You've got to remember, okay, let's take the shades into account. There's no rule. There's no like, oh my God, you're going to prison. There's just some thought that you want to put in so that you don't waste opportunities. How can we be as efficient as possible? Knowing that I can have an ultra dark shade, any color that I choose here, I automatically have access to two versions that are darker than that color. So just from the standpoint of putting in 000 here, I will just ask all of you, what color is darker than that? Well, there isn't one. So if I set this to 000, I have just taken two of my options out of the mix. I can't use dark or ultra dark because there is no value darker than that. I don't want to do that. So what I might do is I might also look around this design, and a lot of times what you'll find, maybe right here. Let's take a look. What color is this? H2, computed, color, 51. Oh, come on. You're going to give me RGB. See, RGB is not a readable format. What color is this, Google? 333. Hey, look at that. Look at that. Okay, so it was happened to be the default that ACSS uses. So I'm going to reset this. Actually, the default of this install, not ACSS. So let's go 333. 333. Okay. Now, suddenly, I have base, which maps to 333. Which means in this particular design, that's my base color right there. Now I also have ultra dark and dark, which are darker versions that I can use on background sections. So see how I have maximized the efficiency by choosing 333 here because I have dark and ultra dark. And if I want ultra dark to be the black, the pure black, no problem, Jack. 000 save. Now base ultra dark is also black. Or let's go back to talking about efficiency. That kind of wastes an option. Why does that waste an option? Because black is already a color in automatic CSS. You already have it available to you. So if ultra dark and black match each other, there's no reason for that. So what I might make this is 5 and then 15. I might make these really close to black, but not quite black. All right, and then I hit save. So now I've got black as an option, ultra dark as an option, one shade below that, dark as an option, one shade below that, then base, which maps to 333. I've got lots of options, and I can also go the other end of the spectrum, right? So you see right here, And this is what people, I think, get confused. They're like, I need more colors. No, you don't. You just need to learn how to use the shades properly. Okay, so look at this. Ultra light. That's an ultra light neutral color. Well, my base is already a neutral color, guys, right? It's 333. That's already neutral. So this might be, is this white or is this like very light gray? Let's go computed. Let's go background. I'm guessing that doesn't even have a color. So that's white. So this is white. This is light. So let's talk about those t-shirt sizes with colors. Medium, light, ultra light. What do you say this is right here? I would say that's as close as possible as you can get to white without not being able to tell the difference. So that's got to be ultra light. It's got to be the lightest color of my base possible. So I use base ultra light there, and I'm going to get exactly that. So look, I put 333 in my base. Remember, I have the lights available to me as well. So let's refresh the builder. Let's do BG base ultra light. Okay. See, I got that very light color. Now I'm going to come out here. I'm going to add another section just so we can see below it. Maybe I'll duplicate that a few times. Okay. Let's go to the front end. Okay. See that light color? There's my white. You can just see it right here. You can see the contrast right here. That's exactly the same as the contrast right here. Now, if it's not exactly the same, that's no problem either. I can just go in and tweak the lightness of ultra light until it's exactly matches. And so with one color, base, I set base to 333. I now have my text color for this design. I have this background color right here. I have this light gray color. I have this lighter. Here, I think that's white. But let's say that they were a light gray and then a little bit darker gray. That's fine too. Ultralight, light. Here they are. So one color and then the shades that are accessible. I've built the entire Uber website. Base. They don't even use an action color, guys. Now, here's what I will say, because this is actually a good lesson in scalability and maintainability. I would not, you will never catch me dead using button base right here, okay? Because if the client ever comes along and says, you know what, we decided we actually do need an action color for this website that's different from the other colors. If I use button action here, so here's what I would do. I would go to button, I would go to action, and I would say 333. And you're like, Kevin, that wastes an action color. Well, where else do you see it? There is no other action color. So I'm not wasting a color. What I'm doing is protecting myself, okay? And I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. So I'm going to refresh this. So now I'm going to add a button. So I'm going to go button, and I'm going to say that this is a button action, not a button base, even though it appears to be the button base color. Let's see what happened here. Good. This is a good lesson to do all of this. Don't expect ACSS to be like, oh my God, you changed the background color of this button, so I'm going to automatically choose a foreground color for you. No, it didn't do that. So you have to go in here. This is where you go to your buttons and links, come down to your action button. All right. And then you are going to want to change the text color from action ultra dark to action ultra light. Tell it, no, we want the ultra light version here. Okay. So I'm going to hit save. Again, it saves longer in my installation because it goes through Dropbox. See this? Okay. Now this looks like Uber. Got it? All right. I didn't do all of the styling, but you get the point with the color. Ooh, see, the overlay text is not working. It's broken. No, it's not. So here's your hover text color right here. Make both of them ultra light, hit save, and now it's going to work when you hover. So all of this stuff is easily tweakable. Okay, see that? We're good to go now. Now, here's where I did this. Client comes along, could be a week, could be a month, could be a year. Client's like, you know what? We decided having a base color button everywhere, not as good as having an actual color somewhere. Okay, so let's go up here and let's just have some fun. So now here's Bev. Bev's up here just choosing colors. She's back in accounting, just like, I'll fix it. Okay, and then we're gonna grab this hex code right here. And then we're gonna say, all right, Mr. Client, this is no problem whatsoever. I swap out my action color, I hit save, I go to the front end, and let's see all of our buttons, all of our links go from that boring base to now being an action color. If I had said, oh, you know what? Where's Uber? That's my base color. I'll just use button base everywhere. Because we got to think contextually again. Just like I have grid gaps and content gaps and container gaps, I have button action because that's even though it matches the base color, it's for the purpose of action. And if my action ever needs to change, I have control over action. If I match button base everywhere, now I don't have control of the action color anymore. So that's why I would do that in that way. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay. But see, the point I wanted to get across was, for all the people saying, I need more colors, I can build the entire Uber website with just the base color. I didn't even need any other colors. So let's go back to the panel now. When would you need these other colors if you actually legitimately need them? So I've got my action, I've got my base set. Let's say that some of these sections were like the header is purple or something. Maybe the header, this wouldn't look good, but maybe the header's purple, maybe the footer's purple. Well, in Automatic CSS, I don't currently have a purple. And I'm like, all right, well, we're using that as that's like the next most used color. So now we get into just like, how often does the color show up? If the color shows up more often than any other color besides action or base, then it's primary. If then there's another, let's say there's another color. It shows up a little less often than the primary color. All right, that's secondary. And then there's another color and it just shows up here and there. Well, that's your accent color. So that's kind of what the names mean. And this is very typical to like just UI design workflow. This is not something that we just like, came up with out of thin air. So that's kind of the general explanation for that. But again, nobody's going to knock on your door and take you to prison because you use primary in a different way. Just make sure it makes sense to you and your workflow, and then it makes sense contextually across the website. Okay, like I've seen people use action or accent for all of their buttons. And it's like, there's an action color right there. Don't use the accent for all your buttons, okay? Things like that. So if you just avoid like, common sense scenarios basically, then you should be good. All right. Is it possible to see what CSS each ACSS variable contains? Yeah, I mean, you can always inspect, right? If you know how to use the inspector. So you go into inspect, here's a section, row gap right here. Var FR container gap. It's going to say FR container gap is equal to space L. Okay, but what's space L equal to? I click it. That's what space L is equal to. This big clamp function right here. So yeah, if you just use the inspector and drill down, you're going to be able to see the values for things. What's the best practice for building hero section templates? Use CSS classes, BIM, or a combination of both as it's used everywhere. And sometimes you might want to add, remove elements. I don't know if I understand the question entirely. What is the best practice for building a hero section? Templates maybe that means or use CSS classes, BIM, or a combination of both as it's used everywhere. And sometimes you might want to add, remove elements. Okay, I think I got it. I'm about to, and this will answer the question about page building 101. People are like, are there more things coming? Yes, the next lesson coming is on templates. And I know everybody thinks about templates as like header, footer, blog post, like that. And that's actually like the base level of templating. Really, when you talk about templating on the internet, you want to talk about, in web design, I should say, you want to talk about component-based templating. And really, so the main lesson I'm going to cover in that PB 101 video is template is not a noun, okay? You want to think as templating as a verb, right? To template. I template things. I don't use templates, or I don't like create templates. I template things. And what that means is we can have a header, and there's 3 different types of templates, okay? And this will all make more sense after you watch the video. If you open Bricks and you make a template and then you insert the template, it's a big problem. And I'll show you that right now. So I think you can actually just do it from here. Okay. So insert template, and there's my template. Let's drag it to the top. Okay. And then it asks me to select a template. It's only going to allow me to select things that are actually in my templates, not remote templates. All right. And I will be the first to tell you right now, the way Bricks organized all of this, it's not the greatest, okay? It's not the greatest. And the way they do components, it's not functional the way that it should be. And this is where I will pat Quickly on the back. Quickly, I believe, is going to be other than, I believe, Buildarius. Now, I haven't confirmed this, but I've been told Buildarius does components properly. Quickly is about to release a components feature that does this properly. Bricks does not do this. Oxygen does not do this. And we should all collectively, when this templating thing comes out, because I'm going to show how Bricks does not do this properly, then we all need to put in the feature request and we all need to upvote it. This is the single most important thing missing from both Bricks and Oxygen right here. Okay, so pay attention. All right, so I am going to put in that hero section. Let's get rid of all this junk. Let's start over. Remote templates, hero. Remember, keep in mind, this is the single most important thing missing from these builders. So I am going to go right-click, save as template. And I'm going to save this as custom hero. And I'm going to choose section, which this is all nonsense right here. Okay, choose section. This template. Now I have custom hero as a template. Okay, following me, right? Now I remove the template. I have to refresh the builder so the builder has access to that new area. Now I come in here and add a template component. This is effectively a global version of this. And in the PB101 episode, I'm going to explain this, that there are global templates, it's all components. Just think of it as components. The verb, to template, I'm templating things. And then think of them all as components because that's what they are. So I've created a global. There's a global, there's a dynamic, and then there's a local, what I call a local. Those are kind of the three types of templates. This is a global template. A global template is an exact replica of the other version. So I saved a version. This is an exact replica that, look, I cannot edit. I cannot change the content. In this instance, I am forced to use the exact content that is inside of this and the exact order of the content that is inside of this. It's not very flexible. You only use this when you need an exact replica and nothing else, making it useless for anything else. A true component is dynamic so that I can add this instance, but I can change the content in it. And then if I ever want to change the HTML, like maybe I want maybe I want to add something to this template and I want every version of this template to get the additional element that I add, like a button, right? So I go add a button, it shows up in everything, but each one still gets to keep its unique content. That's how a real template/component should work. That's not possible in Bricks. That's why I can't demonstrate it right here. It is possible in Webflow. It is possible in Quickly's next version. It is apparently possible in Buildarius. This is the single most important feature that we need in Bricks and Oxygen. So what you're asking is more difficult to do in Bricks and Oxygen. So if it did it properly, I would say to do it this way, where you have a true dynamic component. But since we can't do that, what are our other options? Let's say it's the hero for a service page, and you're going to have 10 service pages, and you want all the heroes to be the same, but you want them to have unique content. Then what you need to do is what I use like a template partial. So you make a template for your service pages, and it has a hero in it, and the content of the hero is controlled by custom fields attached to the custom post type. You shouldn't have to do it that way, but you do have to do it that way because real components don't exist. I would have to do a whole tutorial on how to do that. I've done it in the inner circle, but that would require a whole tutorial to demonstrate. Or you can just rely on BIM. But remember, BIM only controls CSS. BIM doesn't control HTML. Like custom classes, they don't control HTML. And this is why this is such a big missing piece. We have BIM and ACSS to control globalized and individualized styling of components. Styling. Styling is not HTML. If the HTML of that component needs to change, you don't have a lot of options in Bricks. And that's why we need it. We absolutely 100%. That's the next most important thing we need. I know everybody else. Let's go to Bricks changelog. See, if I was, or what is it? Roadmap. Sorry. This is why, you need a developer. You need developers that actually build websites, number one. And then you also need developers who are more forward-thinking than user-driven, okay? I try to be as user-driven as possible, but I'm mostly just forward-thinking. As the primary user of Automatic CSS, I'm like, what does it actually legitimately need next? That's often different from what users are asking for. And we can prove that right here, okay? So we come in here, set default unit from pixel to anything else. 4,000 votes. I have never cared in the slide. First of all, it changes when you fucking write the thing. So you go over here and you're like, see, they want this. Oh, it doesn't even have a font. I don't even know what this is talking about anymore because they removed the unit field. What is this thing even talking about now? Is it in global styles maybe? Global, general, colors, where typography, body, right there. I guess. I don't know. I don't even know what this is for. It's got 4,000 votes. I can't even imagine what it's for. Experienced devs never rarely use pixels. Allow other units to be set default globally like Rimmer. This is not important. Okay. You can do this on the fly. It's never even been a thing. I don't think it's ever crossed my mind. Okay. This kind of stuff. Back to top element. Oh my God. 6,000 votes. Not needed. This is not important. Why are we talking about this stuff? Radial gradients. I get it. Okay. It would be nice. But what the developer should be thinking is, no. Okay, I get users want these things. But what's really missing is a true component functionality that Webflow has, that Quickly is about to have, that we don't have. And it's the single most important missing feature in Bricks and Oxygen. And it's not even here. It ain't even, I bet it doesn't even have a single vote. Maybe it's there somewhere. I don't know. It definitely ain't on this board. I'll tell you that right now. So I look at this and I'm like, why is the single most important thing not even on here? It's kind of frustrating, right? So you can't just be 100% user driven. It goes back to the whole thing about, if users would ask me for a faster horse, but I built a car. They didn't even imagine that we could have the car. They were just asking for faster horses and a prettier saddle for the horse and prettier foot things for the horse. And okay, but we can get a car if we actually have somebody forward thinking about what needs to happen next. So you need to have a little bit user driven. You need to have a lot of innovation in the actual driver's seat. Okay. I'm sorry I can't answer your question better other than to say Bricks doesn't have the feature you need, and we needed to have the feature you need. All right, are you going to do a deep dive with GeneratePress and ACSS? How do you compare to Bricks Builder? Yes, I will do a deep dive. I will just give you a heads up right now. I was like, I got to build a whole page in Generate to make sure everything works right. It's just what I got to do. See, that's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that a lot of people don't see, is me just over here tinkering in Gutenberg and Generate just because I have to. And I was legitimately saying to myself, if this turns out to be a decent workflow, then I got to go tell everybody. I got to go apologize. I got to go put out an apology video and say, I am so sorry. I couldn't see it ahead of time. I didn't see what everybody was seeing, and I effed up. It's a decent workflow. It's a good workflow. I was prepared to make that video. I got all the way through the build. Guys, I had more reasons why it's not a good workflow. Even more reasons than I had before for why this should not be happening inside of Gutenberg. I know the Gutenberg people are just going to hate to hear that. And I'm about to, people charge me with this all the time. They say, oh, Kevin just says things to make money. I'm about to break into the Generate market. I want as many of those people using Automatic CSS as possible, but I'm still going to tell you right now, you ain't catching me dead using it. Okay. Like I'll do it for videos. I'll do it for tutorials. ACSS makes their life way better than it was before. That's a fact. But I would never recommend using it. If somebody asked me, would you use Generate or Bricks? Or Bricks all day. Not even a question. Somebody said in my email, they were like, I use Generate, but I feel like the grass may be greener on the other side. I was like, this is not grass being greener, my friend. This is grass next to a mud hole. That's the comparison. Like I'm not going to be in the mud hole. Okay. It doesn't even have to be super green grass with bricks. Obviously, we're missing a couple features, right? It's not the plushest grass around. Could be a little bit plusher in my estimation. But I'm using that all day over a mud hole. I mean, it is, and it is just to see what you have to do to get styles. First of all, you guys got me on another rant, but this is a quick one. Let me just go here. Okay. WordPress makes the native Gutenberg environment. Am I right? I think so. I think I'm right. They also made this little customizer section and this thing right here. Did you know that the CSS that you put in here doesn't show up in Gutenberg by default? Oh, you got to hook into it. And you got to hook into it in a special way so that the styles here don't actually affect the admin panels. And these two sections don't even talk to each other. I found that out. That was fun. Do you want to open Gutenberg and inspect the editor? Build some stuff? Inspect the editor. 5,000 inline style blocks. Style, div, div. Oh my gosh. It's not even a mud hole. It's a junkyard. It's green grass over here. Just the worst backyard with trailers and junk and trash that you could absolutely, that's Gutenberg. And it's just not an environment for building websites. It's just not. Now, if people want to use it, okay, I'll make their life easier. I'll gladly make their life easier, but you are not going to catch me dead recommending it to people. And so I'm just telling you the facts of the situation, even though that's a market I absolutely want to go after and need to be in after. This is just the truth of the situation. And if that harms our income potential on that side of things, I mean, so be it. This is the fact of the tool. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I want users using the best tool that doesn't limit them, that doesn't slow them down, that doesn't make their life miserable. I want them to have the most efficient workflow, and I want them to have scalable, maintainable websites. And Gutenberg makes that really, 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 really challenging. Okay, when to use and not use box layout. That is 100% a situation that is up to you. There's no right or wrong on a box layout. Do they like that look? Do they like that style? That's 100% up to you. Shades is fine. Please don't change. We can't do a poll because if I do a poll, like, do you want to keep shade? Do you want to change to neutral? It's going to be 50-50 anyway. So it just comes down to like what I decide to do and what the team decides to do. But if you think of the word shade is confusing because all the other colors have shades. And I've even done tutorials where I'm talking about the shade color. And I feel like people are like, they think I'm talking about these other shades, these other colors. It's confusing. If I say neutral, everybody knows what it is. So that's my argument for why it should be changed to neutral. Let's see. Question. We got some good questions coming today. All right, let's go. ACSS classes don't auto appear until after you have used them. Bricks 1.83 plus ACSS 2.5.2. Classes don't auto appear until after you have used them. ACSS, no. You mean they don't auto suggest? Like this? Okay, easily fixable. What most likely happened is, and you have to be very careful when creating your blueprint or this will happen on every single website. But I outline this in the instructions. I outline this on the blueprint. This is not a secret, okay? And it should kind of be common sense. So Automatic CSS injects all of the classes into Bricks' database for auto-suggest. It can't do that if Bricks doesn't exist. So the order of installation is you install Bricks, then you install Automatic CSS. When you activate Automatic CSS, it looks for Bricks. It says, oh, there's Bricks, and then it injects the classes. If you install Automatic CSS and when you activate Automatic CSS, it looks for Bricks, and it's like, there ain't no Bricks. So then it doesn't do anything. Then you install Bricks, and Automatic CSS has not been asked again to go look, so it just doesn't know. And then you open Bricks, there's no auto-suggest. But it's very fixable. Very, very, very fixable. It's like this. Here's how you fix it. You ready? So you go over to the plugins panel. God, my local install is slow. Let me close some tabs. This is absolute molasses right here. Let's go. Can I go to the dashboard? Okay. Can I go to plugins now? It'd be faster to open a real website. This local install is, oh, there it is. Okay, good. So now you go here, you go deactivate, activate. As soon as it activates, done. So right now when I hit activate, which again, this local install is delayed, I hit activate, it looks for bricks again. And then it finds it because you do have bricks now. And then it puts the classes in and then you're good to go. And it's all good. So if you ever run into that problem where, oh no, auto suggest is not, my classes aren't there from Automatic CSS, this would be an oxygen and bricks, doesn't really matter what the builder is. Just deactivate ACSS, reactivate, and they should be there. All right, let's see. Question. I want some images and divs full width, no padding on mobile, but using breakout, full effects, all breakpoints. Sorry if I missed the solution in one of your videos. I want some images and divs full width, no padding on mobile. Okay. Out of the box, because we don't have breakpoint breakout classes, which we could add, but this is a rare situation. And I'll show you why it's rare. So we go to add new. And this is where I want to remind everybody, right? Automatic CSS isn't supposed to do everything for you. It's supposed to do the most common things and solve the most common annoyances and most common challenges for you. But it's not going to do every little like custom thing everybody wants to do, right? So let's do full width, edit with bricks. And so what a lot of people will do is they will have contained content like this. Let me put container gap on here. So because we're gonna have multiple containers. Let's say we have 3 different containers. So then I put a heading in here and I put text in here and I put a button in here. I'm just gonna quickly whip up like a custom hero section. So then I can do center all and I can do content gap. Okay. So see how handy this is, right? Then I come down here. Maybe actually I want this button down here in this container. All right. So we're going to do center all. If I could type today. And then I want to also do like center left M, right? So, because I don't want it all centered maybe on the mobile version. So I'll do center left M there, and I'll do center left M here. That'll put all of this in alignment. Now I want an image right here. So I put my image in, select an image. Let's go with let's go with Atlanta. Nope, that's a tall version. Okay, let's go with this one. Insert. Awesome. Now I go breakout. Full. Okay, now I have a breakout. So let's go view this on the front end. Well, that's not the front end. Let's go view this on the front end. There we go. So I've got my heading, and that's really, I'm OCD. So I'm going to switch this to an H1. There you go. All right, so we'll refresh. So there's my hero text. Look at my image breaks out beautifully. And then you're like, oh, that image is kind of large. Okay, check this. Aspect, and then we'll do like 16:9. And that's going to give me that 16:9 aspect ratio, except I may have turned off the aspect ratio classes because I'm in pro mode. That's why it would be helpful to not have those. So I'm going to go on my image right here, because what ideally you would have is a hero class, right? You're bimming all of this out. You come down here. And the reason I turn off the class is because this is really easy, right? Aspect ratio 16:9, and I attach that to my BIM class. That way every image in my hero is like that, versus using the aspect utility class. Not every image in the heroes are going to be like that. So this was an example where pro mode was like, hey dog, you might want to do a custom class for that, and use, just normal CSS. All right. So then I refresh here. Awesome. But now let's look on mobile. What does this look like when we drop this down? Okay. So we have our left aligned text like we asked for, right? Remember it broke from center to left to keep everything nice and consistent on mobile now. And the breakout, though, is still breaking out. And so my question is, what's the problem with that, right? Most breakout fulls, you want this to happen. You want it to stay full. That's it. Because it looks great. It looks fantastic right here. It still gives you the like non-boxy look that you were going for. That's why we broke it out in the first place. So if I take off this breakout class and I do something like width full, which is not going to break it out, it's just going to make it the full width of the container. Now I refresh. It still looks good, but it's just a little, it's not so modern, right? It just, not as much magic happening with it, right? And then I look at this on mobile. Let's bring this all the way down. It still has the padding, which again, it's fine, but it doesn't have the magic of the breakout. The magic of the breakout is what everybody's looking for. And you would still want that happening on mobile. So if I go here and I do change this to breakout full. All right. And so what you're saying is you wanted the magic of the breakout on desktop, but you don't want the magic of the breakout on mobile. Well, this can be fixed, right? And I will say this can be overridden. We'll take a look at it in just a second. If I do any other breakout like Excel, okay, so let's save, let's refresh this on the front end, okay? Notice that it breaks out well beyond the content width of the website. So you're still getting an ultra large version of this image, but on mobile, it recognizes, hey, you didn't ask for this image to touch the edge of the screen, so it's not gonna touch the edge of the screen on mobile. These other breakouts behave the way that you want them to. Full intentionally doesn't behave that way because you asked for it to be full. Now, what if you really, really, really want this breakout to not be full? Okay, so what you would have to do is come down here and inspect how the breakout occurs. Okay, so you're gonna wanna find breakout full, and you're gonna see inline size is set to 100 VW, max inline size is set to 100 VW. Then it's got this negative margin inline on it. It does a bunch of fancy stuff. So you can go effectively edit the breakout full class. You can go rogue, okay? You can go rogue. You can unlock it, and then you can come down to custom CSS, and you can write a media query, right? So you would say like at media, you could do a min width query, or this would be a max width query because you really want it on mobile, okay? And then you would write your whole media query and you would undo those styling instructions. You would basically undo what Automatic CSS is doing at your specific breakpoint and below. So it's not part of ACSS by default, but you can go rogue and you can override the behavior at any breakpoint that you want with a little custom CSS. So even though it's not a built-in feature, it is not stopping you from getting to the point that you want to get to. And you didn't have to figure out how to do the breakout in the first place. You just have to undo it. All right, hopefully that answers that. Why do you promote the use of classes over variables, even for examples? That is when you added the grid gap with classes instead of a variable. I actually don't. This is a good question from Kraka. So let's go back and let's clear all of this junk out. Okay, so let's go to here. So what I've said, the way that I've taught this is, if you're using a generic grid, this could be a grid like in a random section for your content or something. So let's say I want content next to an image. So I'm gonna put 2 blocks in here, and I want those blocks to be side by side. The best way to do this is with grid. And this is not a contextually, there's no contextual definition here, right? So I can say grid 2, and I'm gonna get side-by-side content, and then I can say grid gap. Or I can use whatever gap I want to. You know, in this situation, because it's not contextually a literal grid, you could use whatever you want. So you can say gap XXL if you want a really big gap between those. It's up to you, right? But this is a situation where I'm gonna throw in some content. Like this particular layout maybe is never gonna happen again on this website. I'm gonna throw in a button here, okay? And then I'm gonna say, because it's not gonna happen any other time, like it's just this one-off thing, I'm gonna content gap this with a class. I'm gonna go throw an image on this side over here. Okay, let's go select our image. Let's put in this person, all right? And then I can even come in here and start using like align items, right? I don't even have to go into the builder for this stuff. I can get this to be aligned, centered with this image. And then I go look and I whip this up very, very, very fast. And so I'm just using utility classes, like flying through this. Why? Because I made the decision that I just need this one-off layout. I'm not interested in using it over and over and over again on this website. And so using utility classes are perfectly fine here. And that's where grid gap can come in, or gap XXL, or whatever. Now, let's look at a different scenario. I come down here. Let's say that we're gonna make this exact same layout, guys. Exact same layout. But I've looked at the wireframes. I've looked at the mock-ups. And I've seen this thing over and over and over again. Quite a common layout. And I'm like, you know what? I don't wanna build that once like this manually and then just kind of duplicate it everywhere or rebuild it every single time or use a template part or blah, 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 blah. All we're talking about here is styling, right? So this is where you immediately go to BIM. So you could name this layout. See, in frames, they're already named for you, which is another benefit of using frames. But here you could say like content section 1 content section alpha, or like, hopefully it's something, you know, you can remember. But I would do exactly the same thing. Let's add our blocks. So let's build this with BIM. We're going to build the exact same thing we just built. So here's my container right here. And I'm going to say, well, we would actually want to do this on the content section here. So I'll just do content. We'll just content layout 1. I don't know, like do whatever you want. Content layout 1. And then this is content layout 1 inner. Content layout 1. This is the inner wrapper for content layout 1. And then I immediately now, because you never want to do this, this makes no sense in any capacity whatsoever. Don't mix and match BIM classes with utility classes. No reason to, defeats the purpose, breaks scalability, maintainability. The minute you go BIM, you go variables. That's it. Just tie that in your head. The minute you go custom class, you go variables. No more utilities, okay? All right, so we go in and we're gonna go to display this as a grid, and it's gonna say, what do you want your gap to be? What do you want your grid template columns to be? Well, if I don't even know, I can just right click here and I can choose something like grid gap, right? Or I already know it. I say grid gap, bam, done. Now, I want a 2-column grid. What should I do? Well, right here, I can go grid 2. Oh gosh, there it is, done. And now I want that to match this, right? So I just choose the different gap. Let's go with, I think that was, what, XXL up there that we chose? All right, now I put in my heading. Now I put in, it'd be nice if Bricks could put it in the correct block, right? How about we do that? Okay, now we're gonna go text, and then we're gonna do our button. And there's just a little bit, why is it putting things out of order? Bricks, what are you doing to me? What are you doing to me? Okay. All right, so now there's just a little extra step of giving these things headings. So this is content section 1, or content layout 1, and then double underscore. I'm just gonna copy that to my clipboard. We're actually coming out with a way better way of doing this. Automatic CSS is gonna do all of this for you. This is gonna be heading, and then I'm gonna click this, and this is gonna be text. I'm gonna click this. I don't even need a button there. That's just gonna be button action, just like I could have done here, button action. The only time you still use the utility is when it's a globalized utility, like for a button or something like that. All right, now I give this content layout 1, and this is gonna be the content wrapper for content layout 1. And immediately, because it's a class, I go back to variables, right? And so now, what is this? It's content, so we're going content gap. Now I put the image on this side. So I built the exact same thing, and now we can see the difference. Why would you do one versus the other? Okay, I should probably use the same photo. Let's just make it as consistent as we can possibly get it. Okay, now also, you go the extra mile, right? Content layout 1 image. Perfect. All right, let's put this in a figure tag. Hey, it's no captioning because we got that turned off earlier, which is absolutely fantastic. Now, content layout 1 inner. What do we do here? We need this centered alignment. See, it's middle centered vertically. I used a utility class for that up here. Is there a variable for that? No. And there should not be. And there doesn't need to be because we have a page builder. We have a custom class. It's going to write the CSS for us. It's done. It's done, guys. Okay, you don't need variables for that. So then we view this. All right, what is happening here? Save, refresh. Let's inspect what has been turned off. Okay, content layout 1, inner wrapper, content layout 1, flex start, Bricks. What are you doing, Bricks? Why is there a Bricksy container class on here? Notice it's good in the builder. Okay, let's go back to style, content, grid, content layout 1, and there is no other class that I can control on here. This is what I'm asking for. We might need to go to a different install. Bricks, what are you doing? Okay, let's try this. Let's go section. Let's just do a quick test. We need to see, this is debugging 101. Which part is not working? Give me images, pop. Give me another image. So now we go here. Is this situation? Grid 2. Once again, works in the builder. What are we going to get on the grid's working just fine. Okay, that's doing it at the ID level. Is the gap working? Grid gap. Check it. That's working. Okay, so what was Bricks losing its mind about is the question. Let's do this slowly now. Let's go piece by piece. Let's delete all of this because those are ID styles. I'm going to minimize this. We're going to figure this out right now. Okay, let's do content. I got to do a different class. Let's just do content section all by itself. This is going to be content section inner. And of course, this always happens, on a live stream. Content section inner. Let's add our blocks. This is going to be content section inner wrapper. We'll just do content wrapper here. And then we'll need one more block. This is going to be our image wrapper. We're going to go nice and slow. Slowing down. And let's do image wrapper. Okay. Now let's go display this as grid. So we're on a class once again. Same thing that we did before. Let's do grid 2. Let's do space XXL. Okay. Save. Now over here, heading, I just want content in general. Let's see what we get. One image, no classes yet. Let's see if Bricks loses its mind once again. It is. So now the question is, why is Bricks losing its mind when I have classes enabled? Because this never happens. And I'm going to go to the chat. I'm going to go to the bottom of the chat. If anybody sees something that I'm not seeing. No, nobody has an idea yet. I really want to know. When I did this at the ID, it didn't lose its mind. But when I do this with a class, it's losing its mind, which also never happens. Let's get out of mobile. It's not adding any things I am asking it to add. Content section inner is not defined here. It has none of the styles that I asked it to have. Okay. We're refreshing the builder. I want to copy this to clipboard. Maybe the builder has lost its mind. Oh, I can't paste. Wonderful. We're going to figure this out. I'm not leaving defeated. All right, let's go. Add a section. All right, my class. Can I just get a 2-column grid with a class? I didn't already use that because I saw that comment too. And I already thought of that, but I didn't already use it. It's not even applying the styles. The styles aren't even in the DOM. Grid. I don't even use a variable. Let's just do 1FR, 1FR. Can it handle that? Save. This is done on a class. Refresh. Look, it can't even handle that. This Bricks install is foobar. This is not even AC. I'm not even using ACSS. Like it doesn't even accept 1FR, 1FR. But what version is this? Because watch, if I do this with ID, watch, it's gonna do this. Grid, 1FR, 1FR. It's gonna do it. Guaranteed. Look at that. And then if I go grid 2 with ACSS, it's gonna do it. Guaranteed. Because it always does it. The minute I put a custom class on, it's losing its mind. Kraken says, I've been having this issue with Bricks. This is the latest version, I'm almost positive. I know in the 1.8.2, there was a problem with seeing CSS on classes in the builder, but supposedly they fixed it in 3.3 or 1.8.3 or whatever. Yeah, look at that. Bricks, bricks, bricks. Killing me. Killing me with this. All right. I'm trying to think. Let's go. Okay, let's do this. You know what? You know what we're going to do? Here's exactly what we're going to do. Got to do it. Got to do it. You know what, Bricks? You fail me? We're going old school. We are going old school. I haven't used this install in forever. I don't even know what version of Oxygen this is. All right, we're going to do the exact same thing. I told you I'm not leaving defeated. Okay, So let's go custom verse utility. All right, publish, and edit with Oxygen. Somebody file that as a, we're gonna have to file that as a bug in Bricks. It's 1.8.3, guys, is apparently not super stable. Okay, oh, you see that? The draggable handles, they got me again. I wish there was a way to turn these off. All right, let's do this over again. Let's pretend that Bricks did not just poop on us. All right, so what we're gonna do is with utility classes. Now, problem with Oxygen is I can't access the inner containers. So I have to add divs. There's one div, and then can I duplicate that div and duplicate it again? There we go. And now we're gonna do container gap, which is probably not gonna work because we're not in an actual, we can't access the inner wrapper. That's another bug that we're working on. All right, so let's do this with utility. Man, Oxygen is so unfamiliar now. It's like, where do we begin? Because you don't have a container element either. I need a container element. Where's my container element? So this is gonna be width VP max. Whew. Okay, that's the cheat code for getting a container element when you don't have one. Width VP max and width VP max. Okay, there you go. And we're gonna be able to do that with a custom class as well. All right, so I've got width VP max on all of this. What did I have? I had a heading. This is gonna be all of our utility, all right? And then we're gonna have text, and then we're gonna have our button. Okay, good. Now we're gonna center all, just like we did before. We're gonna center left M, just like we did before. We're going to content gap this, just like we did before. We're gonna button action this, just like we did before. We're gonna come down here, we're gonna add our image. What did I just add? Did I just add another div? Get rid of that, okay. Add an image, there we go. Do I even have any images on here? Browse, one, good. Select. Somebody calling me? No. Oh, it's this Apple Watch is making noise. Oh God, turn it down. Okay. Man, we are doing this is fantastic. All right, let's do a button. Okay, good. Now let's see if you don't have container gap, how do you gap all of these out? You're gonna have to be a chump and use like bottom margin and nonsense. I can do gap on here. So we're gonna go gap of space M. There you go. All right, these work. Container gap. There we go. Okay, so we've created this basically with utility classes. Breakout full, awesome. Okay, so now let's look at this on the front end. Is Oxygen gonna poop on us now? No. Beautiful. Okay, let's do our aspect ratio. Aspect 16:9. It's gonna get us a nice usable aspect ratio there. So it's not super tall. All right, and let's finish this off with center all and center left M. Awesome. Now let's check on mobile. Make sure that it's all working well on mobile. Okay, everything left aligns. We still have our nice breakout. We still have everything that we want. Okay, it's everything that we asked for. Now I want to build this exact same thing. Let's get rid of bricks, gone. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to add another section below. We're going to try this one with BEM. This one didn't have a great, we're just going to build the other one from earlier. So I'm going to add a div, bam. This is going to be my content layout 1. I'm going to grab that to my clipboard. All right, this is going to be the inner. Awesome. Now, same thing here with we just need, everything's in a different spot. So we do grid. The minute we do grid, it's going to ask us for, and this is the downfall of Oxygen now. Oxygen only supports, they don't really allow you to do this. So what you're gonna have to do is come into custom CSS, which I don't even remember how to do this in Oxygen because you can't do root. Oxygen's killing me. Content layout 1 inner. I think you got to do this in a style sheet, don't you? Add style sheet. Where are my Oxygen people at? And this is a perfect example, by the way, of why you should stick to one builder and one workflow. I used to use Oxygen day and night, and I was like flying through. And then you switch away from it, don't use it for a while, and then the client's like, we want to use Oxygen. Well, be prepared to spend a lot of time because you're going to forget a lot of stuff, like where stuff is. Content layout 1 inner. This is where you can do display grid. See, now you have to know how to write some custom CSS because Oxygen doesn't really allow you to do this. Grid, template, columns, var grid 2. Okay. And then we won't even worry about that right now. Let's just see if we're getting what we want. All right. This is the inner, right? We got to put a width of 100% on here. Let's add a div and a div. And dude, this is so much more difficult. This like workflow. Okay. Now I can use my gap on here. Grid gap. Now I can add my heading. Why did Oxygen bring me way up there? Don't know. Text. Button. Perfect. Okay. This is going to be content layout 1 content wrapper. This is what I was doing before in bricks. This is going to be content gap. Perfect. Okay. Don't want that to be so long. Our image goes over here. Just like we did in bricks. This is good. Put image on here. Then you can actually put your aspect ratio right here if you want, or we can say like 1:1, make it a square. Save. And then we need to align that stuff to the center, right? So we're going to go content layout 1. And here's another downfall, I think, of, yeah. So this is a grid layout, but in order to get the flex controls, I have to say that it's a flex layout, but then, see, this is going to mess this up. They should give you the alignment controls without declaring, or it should detect, like Bricks does, that this is already using a grid, but it doesn't. These are the roadblocks you run into with builders that just constantly bug the crap out of me. All right, so what we're going to have to do is go back to our style sheet because the builder can't get it done. We're going to say align items to the center. Save. Okay, let's go look at this on the front end. There we go. So that is that side-by-side layout. But the difference now is if I duplicate this, let's go to style sheets. No, we want to go to structure panel. We want to find our section. We want to duplicate it. So now I have 2 of them. And you could just imagine that these are on many, many, many different websites or different pages of the website. So now I click this and I'm like, you know what? We want to change the aspect ratio of all of those. Okay, well, I have global control over that now. So all of them now are 16:9, whereas the one with utility classes would not be 16:9. See this gap in here? Oh, we want to change that to space XXL. Well, now they all change. Not like if I use utility classes, they don't all change. But with BIM, they all change. If for some reason I'm here and I want to tighten this up, I can go content gap divided by 2, and now they're all tighter. Not just that one, all of them are tighter. So this BIM gives me global styling control over all of these elements. Now, once again, here's where you're going to see the problem. Imagine that I want to remove the button from all of these. We just decided all the buttons need to go. There is no way for me to do that because there is no global control over componentized HTML in Oxygen or Bricks. And quickly, you would be able to do that. In Webflow, you would be able to do that. In Bricks and Oxygen, you can't do that. And it's actually very, very, very important to be able to do. But this is custom CSS achieving the exact same layout that we did earlier with utility classes before Bricks took a giant dump on what we were doing. Okay, let's go back. What time is it? 1:49, 2 o'clock. I got like 15 minutes. All right, here we go. Can't you click on the grid icon and edit there? Let's try that. I don't think so. I think this was always a limitation of Oxygen. Granted, I haven't used it in a while. So let me go up to, yeah, it would be this one. Let's take away style sheet. Let's take away the grid template columns and display grid part. And yeah, let's try. I do want to know. All right, so here's our div. So what you're saying is if I display this as grid, you can't put a variable in here. This input does not accept variables. I'm almost positive I looked at this already. I made comments to people about how this is very limiting, the way that they did this. So I'll show you why you can't do it. So I'm going to do var grid 2. See how you don't get a 2-column grid? And I'm going to show you why. And it's actually very fixable by Oxygen. They should in fact fix this. Not source, inspect. So I was looking at how they inject the value there. So content layout 1 is right here. Okay. So we're going to come down here. Here's the display grid right there. Grid template columns, they put in the repeat function statically, and they only inject the value inside of the repeat function. That's a mistake. That's very, 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 very limiting. What Bricks does is Bricks injects whatever value you put into the grid template columns instruction, allowing you to put anything that you want. Oxygen, by the way, is also only capable of creating even grids. This grid builder cannot create uneven grids without spans. And that's bad. That's horrible too. Whereas in Bricks, let me open Bricks up. Can I go? I almost want like an older version of Bricks. Let me go to. Let's go to. I wonder what website would be. Let's go to getframes.io. I don't know what version that's going to be on. We can look. If we can find an older version of Bricks that doesn't piss down its own leg when we try to create a grid, that would be nice. Is my internet not working now? Oh, there it goes. Right when I tab away, it's like, all right, I'll load for you now. Let's go see what we've got. Appearance, themes. Ooh, plain old 1.8. Okay. Maybe with a little luck, we can get something going here. Grid. Okay. Publish. I'll just leave it as a draft. I don't even need to publish it. Okay. This is another reason why Bricks is far superior to Oxygen, by the way. So custom grid. All right. So you can do display grid. Look, you can put anything you want here. Now look what happens when I insert grid 2, and I'll put images in here just so we can see them working. Okay. So image, just use this. I don't even care at this point. Okay. 2 side by side. Save. Let's view this on the front end, and then let's inspect. So we inspect. Notice I put grid 2 as the value. And so when it writes, it says display grid template columns. That's it. This just gives the value that I wrote. It doesn't have a repeat function and trying to inject something in the middle of a repeat function. And in fact, it lets me write my own repeat function. If I wanted to do repeat, and I could do 3 min max 0 1 fr, I can absolutely do that. Now it's going to be a 3-column grid, and it's going to inject that into the instruction for grid template. I can do whatever I want. There's no limitation. Oxygen's grid builder, severely limiting the way that this is structured. So for those of you who ask, and this is why you can't have a comparison chart. Compare Bricks, Oxygen, grid. Yes, box checked. But what they don't tell you is the grid over here, way more flexible and powerful than the grid over here. So it's just things you got to know by using it. Okay. I think that answered the question, and that also demonstrated some limitations with grid inside of Oxygen. All right, let me hop back over. We're almost wrapped up here. Sorry for the spam, but publish the problematic page, Kevin. That might fix your issues. Why was it draft? And I was previewing the draft. Should be able to preview drafts. I don't even know what page it was at this point. This was the same install. Let's just do this. And I think this is a published page. Of course, it'll probably work, It'll probably work. All right, so my fancy grid. So basically what was happening before is you could not do this on a class. It worked in the builder, but didn't work on the front end. Well, now it's working. So is that it? Is because it was a draft? Why was it not letting me preview the draft? That don't make no sense. Oh, switch to draft, save, preview. Oh, this is, okay. This is Gutenberg. Dude, there's so much stuff going on in here. Let's pick one that's easy. There you go, 50 VW. My fancy grid. This also needs to be a draft. There we go. Let's close all these, everything gone. I just want to confirm because I was about to file this as a bug report. So if it's not actually a problem, I am now editing the draft of this page. It is not a published page. I am editing the draft. Okay. Just so we're all on the same page. Fancy grid. All right, let's go grid. Grid 2. Grid gap. Image. If this works, then I don't have to file the bug report. And maybe I was just previewing the wrong page. Save. Refresh. Okay. I must have had the full page loaded, but then I don't know. I don't know what happened. Sorry, Bricks. My apologies. User error. Okay. When you refresh a previewed draft, it's just going to show the old version, not the latest. Okay. Gotcha. All right, 3 more questions. We got the point across, so that was good. I've never ever seen or used Oxygen. Oxygen, the builder for legends who eat apples with a knife. Ricotta can turn the handles off. Why can't you just natively turn the handles off? Yes, we were back in Oxygen for a minute. It happens on both. A lot of you guys are talking about Oxygen versus Bricks now. All right, will contextual help also be implemented for the ACSS admin panel, as there is a way to display the variable names in the admin panel next to each setting? It's being talked about. Yes, I understand. I understand what you're asking. And yes, it's being talked about. Does plaster already included in ACSS? Yes. You just have to turn it on. Everybody that's not getting it to work, 99.999%, they didn't turn it on, which is why we're turning it on by default in 2.6. How did Quickly manage to overcome the challenges of WP of Gutenberg? Really good question. Knowing that all of that is existing in Gutenberg, they've done a fantastic job. I've got to give kudos to them and props to them. We're building a hero. Okay, we answered that question already. One more question left. I've answered this before. I don't know if I want to answer that one. Point, I complained about this in the Bricks forum and I was told, oh, this is how WP templates work. Oh, I think you're talking about the components thing. Yeah. That's not how templates work. I can demonstrate it. In the PB 101 video, it's going to be very clear. And when we make the feature request, we can just pop that PB 101 video in the feature request, and it's undeniable. And the fact that Webflow does it, the fact that Quickly gives the components the proper way now, that Buildarius probably does it. I think Oxygen's if the Oxygen's smart, they're going to come out with it maybe before Bricks, if Bricks doesn't get, their act together. So yeah. To be the advocate of the evil, I think you meant the devil. Kevin is going back and forth to the magic zone to make the changes. Don't get me wrong. I'm an ACSS fan. No, it's 100%. That's why I said 3.0 probably isn't going to even have a dashboard, because you're 100% right, Darwin. It's what I recognized about how users and frameworks should interact with each other. I don't like going back to the ACSS dashboard. So the dashboard was one of those things. Let's just end on this. It'll be a really good thing to end on. I can go back to camera because there's no more screen sharing. Perfect thing to end on. Because I'm a user of my own tools, right? And I want the most efficient workflow possible. When we started with frameworks, no framework, let's get this clear. There was not a framework that I know of in existence that gave users a UI dashboard to go in and customize the framework and make it fit everything exactly the way that you wanted to. Didn't have a lot of things. Frameworks didn't really have fluid responsive typography or spacing. They didn't have good color management. They didn't have a lot of things that ACSS introduced. And we introduced that with a UI dashboard that no other framework had. Because at the time, it was like, that's the way to go. And then you start building sites and you're like, this is amazing. Having this UI dashboard that I can just quickly swap over to and make some changes on the fly and then swap back, especially when it's designed in such a way that you can make the changes at any time, even after the website is built. This was phenomenal. I mean, this was a big step up. But you get a little greedy. You have that for a while, and then you get to the point where you're like, I don't like switching back and forth. Like, that was great. That was fantastic. You got me all this way, but I still don't like swapping back and forth. And that's the realization that I came to myself, where I was like, if I didn't have to switch back and forth, this would be way better, wouldn't it? So then it becomes a question of, how do we make it so you don't have to switch back and forth? And that's what 3.0 solves. And so, yes, now when I say, if I don't have to leave the builder, I don't want to leave the builder. And I shouldn't have, as a user, I shouldn't have to leave the builder. I shouldn't have to go to some magic area to make certain things happen. I want to stay in the environment where I'm doing 98% of my work, right? And it's same thing. Hey, WP Codebox. I've advocated for WP Codebox. That's a magic area. If you're in the builder, right? Here I am doing stuff. I got to swap back to WP Codebox. That's a magic area to write custom CSS and Sass and all that. It's swapping back and forth. It's an efficiency. It doesn't feel as efficient as it could possibly be, right? I think we can all agree on that. So what ACSS 3.0 does is it eliminates the magic areas. And now it's just one workflow. Beautiful, seamless. That's what we're working towards anyway. So yeah, it's like, you're right. There shouldn't be magic areas. You're 100% right. And I came to that conclusion myself because, again, I use my own products. It's not theory. It's build after build after build after build. You're like, I wish I didn't have to swap back and forth between the dashboard. And same thing with WP Codebox. And that's why when a page builder or a framework like Breakdance came along, and was like, guess what? We've got this magic area where you can create your components. And I was like, guess what? Magic areas suck. And if you actually built websites, you would know that magic areas suck, right? So it's another example of like, sounds good, but when you start using it, it doesn't work out so well. It's not that great. And so, yeah, I think that that's a big problem, and we're going to solve that problem. And once we solve that problem, I think the light bulb's going to go off in everybody's head where it's like, wow, a magic area for anything kind of sucks. We can how about this? In Oxygen, a lot of people that switch to bricks realize this. And actually, it's not as efficient in bricks as it should be. In Oxygen, if you're building a site and you're like, oh shit, my header needs a change. I need to edit something in my header. Guess what? You got to go to the magic area where the headers live, and then you can change your header. And Bricks was like, well, we'll just let you click a button and go to the header and edit it. And that was huge because I can stay in the builder that I'm working in and just go to the header and edit it. That's fantastic. It could even be better and faster. They could make it, but that's way better than Oxygen. And that's an example of, this isn't even a third-party tool. Like, the fact that templates live somewhere else and I have to go to that other place to edit them when I can see it in the builder, I can see my header, it just won't let me interact with it. Bad workflow. I hated that in Oxygen. It's like, oh God, every time you want to edit a template, you're on a page, but you realize you got to edit a template. Get out of here, back to the magic area, open the magic area, find the magic template, open the magic template, edit the magic. Oh my God. Workflow in the dumpster. If we can just get to those things from where we're currently at, just straight away, bam, it's magic. Like, that's real magic. Having a separate area, that ain't magic, okay? Having, just get me there. I know where I want to be. I can see it right here. Just get me there. That's what should happen across the board for your entire workflow. So this idea of, hey, we built a new dashboard and you can have components in the oh God. Oh, we're introducing a new magic area as that's like forward thinking. Magic areas suck. I've never met a magic area that I liked. Okay, so we should be focused on eliminating magic areas, right? That's what we think. So that's the direction we're going to go. All right. Any final thoughts, comment? No more questions, but I'll read some final thoughts and comments before we go. This PB 101 thing about templates, guys, it's coming out probably, if not later this week. I'm catching up on a lot of stuff from being gone. Early next week, this lesson on templates in PB 101 is going to open a lot of eyes to what should be possible in these builders that's not currently possible. It's going to cover all the template stuff that you guys are wanting, but it's going to illustrate, hey, there is a big missing piece. And I told Oxygen's team on a live stream a month or 3 months ago, maybe, I said, hey, if you guys want to get a leg up on bricks, this is the thing right here. Do this. And I guess Quickly was listening because Quickly jumped on it and Quickly is about to release it. And hey, respect to the Quickly team. That's a legit move. And I'm going to do a video on it when it comes out. Because I said it's the single most important thing that we need. And if Bricks lags behind on this, they don't need to be lagging on this. They need to be getting on this ASAP. You can't let Webflow and Oxygen and Quickly have this feature and not have it. All right. Nah, WP code box is needed. For me, I will never use these builder CSS boxes. Oh, you got to think bigger, my friend. You've got to think bigger. First of all, I hit up a video. I think that's how you pronounce his name. WP code box. I was like, I got an idea for you. If I were you, I would take it seriously. He's got the idea sitting in his messenger. Okay. That's all I'll say. If he executes it, everybody's going to love it. If he doesn't execute it, I will. Okay. So that's all I'm saying, but you got to think bigger. No, I'm not suggesting you live in this brick CSS box. No, my friend. That's not what I'm asking you to do. I mean, that's what you got to do right now, unless you want to swap over to WP code box, but that's not, we're talking vision, right? What should be the reality for users? That's what I'm talking about. And it doesn't involve this little thing right here. That's not what I'm talking about. No more questions, Andre. He said, why does ACSS add padding inline in the forms? I'd have to add a form and go into all that. And that's next one. Okay. Oh, yeah. I was just talking about the little CSS box and bricks. I know I'm not screen sharing. It's just everybody knows what that is. That's not what I'm saying to put your CSS in. All right, guys, I am out. I've got another build. We're going to be doing, check this out. I will screen share this. Last thing before we go, just to get you excited. I'm going to be doing the Uber homepage with ACSS and Frames, especially because there's this cool little slider action here. So there's really 3 things going on right here. And I want to demonstrate that using Frames specifically. But this whole homepage, we will build with ACSS and Frames as the next real world build right here on the ACSS channel. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss that. It won't be on Geary.co. It's going to be right here on the ACSS channel. So make sure you're subscribed. I'll be back very, very, very soon. Peace. Love you guys. Have a great day.